Hey guys, Mike here. Before we start episode 15 tonight, it just dawned upon me that I forgot to put any contact information in this episode, and honestly, we haven't put up any contact information in most of the recent episodes. So before we continue, must also put up our contact information here. AnimeRoundtable.com is our website. You can check out past episodes, and honestly, we'll try and update it at some point. I know I have to give myself time. If you have any email, animeroundtable@gmail.com is our email address. If you have any questions, comments, or flames, or love mail for Kevin. And honestly, I don't know how many of you are listening to this show. I'd like to know you're out there. So please write in. We'd like to know you're there. Also, we do have a Twitter account @AnimeRoundtable. We'll put up the odd announcement there. And yes, that also applies to Instagram. We're there as well @AnimeRoundtable. Check us out there. We'd love to get over 24 followers. Although how many times we'll post something there is open to some debate. Certainly you'll know that we have an episode coming. Anyway, that's it. Hey Mary, you're up.
The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
Well, this tells you how long it's been since we were last here and how much I've been paying attention to wanting to do stuff the last little while. I've yet to add links to the last episode we did back in September. I guess I'll just add that a little bit later on tonight.
Are you going to have links for tonight's episode with where we can buy the photo book that we're going to talk about at one point?
Well, yeah, let's... Coming soon, folks. Coming soon.
Do we talk about the Japanimation tonight? Is that why I'm here, Mike?
Well, there's a lot to talk about. It's been the better part of 2 months. Anyway, here we go on this, what is it, Thursday?
Friday.
Oh, it is Friday, yeah.
It is Friday.
It's been a while since we've done a Friday taping.
November 8th.
Yeah, Friday evening, November the 8th, 2019. Yes, once again, it has been 2 months. I missed the obligations for whatever we could do in October, whether it's just a recording or something. So here we are almost 2 months since the last episode, and it looks pretty much the same as 2 months ago. Mike Nicholas sitting in the captain's chair, kicking ass, taking names. I can say that now that Bob McCowan has been canceled. James Austin sitting straight ahead of me, and Kevin Ng to my right.
I miss Bob.
Yeah, I miss him too. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's another...
Not that Tim and Sid aren't good. They're great, but...
Oh no, Bob is
not the same.
A pioneer. Oh, well, we can talk. I'm going to go on that in a second before we really get down to things.
Okay.
We have to also acknowledge who's not here. Mohammed Shamarki couldn't make it tonight. We have no clue where he is.
He sent out the feelers.
Maybe
he's still digesting what we saw in TIFF and stuff like that.
He might be. For all I know, he might be recovering, or he might be. I don't know. Is he the type to go to Real Asian? To the Real Asian Film Festival?
I don't know.
It wouldn't shock me, but I don't know definitively.
Depending on what they're screening, he might give it a gander.
Is that going on this week?
I think it started this week or next week or something to that effect. We're actually during the break. I'll check that. And we can
always
talk
forget about Real Asian because some of their screenings are in Toronto, some of their screenings are in Markham. I just never really pay attention to it.
Yeah, I know, and my senpai from high school, I know that he was interested in going to that. So that's why I knew it was happening, but otherwise I wouldn't have known. And I would like to go on my days off in the coming week because I think it will be ongoing and will run through next week. Mm-hmm. I'll have to look it up and tell you what. During the break, I'll look it up and we'll talk about it a little more if there's something that pops out. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, Bob McCowan. I guess we should talk this now. Get this out of the system before we talk. You missed.
Shoot.
Well, this was, remember the inspiration for this show, right? When
was Primetime Sports.
Was Primetime Sports. When I always mentioned this show was inspired, or one of the two main inspirations of this show was Primetime Sports on Sportsnet radio and television, and that got canceled over the summer
because Rogers was bleeding too much
too much.
Rogers
money.
was bleeding too much money from their hockey deal.
Yes,
that they had to cut some people loose,
and they cut probably good a lot of people. Damian Cox was the beginning of that last year, and then
they didn't renew Doug McLean. Nick Kyprios is no longer there either.
Nick Kyprios, John Shannon, Darren Millard from last year. He left last year.
I feel like he left of his own accord, though.
I think it's more like I tend to think when I think about it now, it's more like jumping before you get pushed off.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Greg Brady, who did the morning show.
Oh, I didn't know they cut him because he was in Vancouver, wasn't he? Or was he actually back here?
No, you might be thinking Andrew Walker.
Yeah, I'm thinking
because
Andrew Walker.
He's still in Vancouver.
Okay.
Because he was in Toronto.
But remember, Greg Brady was dismissed from the morning show. Then they brought him back. He was on the morning show with Andrew Walker, and then when Tim and Sid went to television, they gave Brady and Walker Tim and Sid's afternoon radio slot.
Yes.
And then Brady was let go. Andrew Walker went solo. He moved to Vancouver.
Yep.
Brady was brought back to do the morning show, and now he's gone again.
And Bob's buyout must have been really high. I knew he was definitely making like $1 or $2 million a year.
That's a big part, and that's
that was one of the biggest in radio. Yeah,
that was probably a big reason why he was let go, because he was by far the highest paid sports talk show host on radio in Canada.
Plus, I heard their ratings were starting to dip because their competitor was actually doing quite well.
I've never listened to Overdrive either on TSN radio.
Oh, was it Rob Naylor or Bob Naylor?
No, it's not that.
It's Jeff O'Neill, former Leafs player Jeff O'Neill, and a couple others.
Jamie McLennan, who's a former NHL player.
Okay,
and
he was an enforcer, if I'm not mistaken.
And I forgot the last guy's name, but I know because he has a whole lineage in Toronto radio, right?
Oh, okay.
And I'll look that up. I will look that up a bit. Actually, I'll look that up a little bit later on. Oops. Well, let's look at. I'll look at that up now. Actually.
Although I will say I do quite enjoy Tim and Sid.
Oh.
Yeah, no, they were great for television and stuff like that. I haven't listened to them on the radio.
Oh, I listened to them since the beginning.
Okay. I'm sure they're just as entertaining and they're back and forth. You know, I mean,
they were always like that.
I was about to say Brian Hayes. That's his name. That's the host.
Yes.
Brian Hayes actually has a long history. Like his family has a long history in radio. His father, whose name I forgot right now, but has the same last name, Hayes. His father actually was with Sportsnet Radio. And ironically, his father was once a guest host, would be a fill-in host for Bob McCowan back at in the early aughts, right? Mm-hmm. His uncle is John Derringer, who ironically was who, if you're a Torontonian, he's a legendary DJ here in Toronto. I think he's still on Q107, but in the 90s, he was also the morning show host on The Fan on. On what was then called The Fan, Sportsnet Radio. So he was there's a nice radio broadcasting seems to run quite a bit in the Hayes family.
Radio in general has always been a very incestuous industry.
Yeah, well, that too.
You'll always find somebody where this person is actually the wife of this person, or this person is the son of this person.
Do you want? I'm gonna split hairs right now with you, and you might find this one really funny.
Okay.
Jim Taddy, who's the legendary, who's a well-known sportscaster back in the day with Global, who he would have actually been a colleague of Bob McCowan back then in the 80s, and he bounced around. He left Global. He's now with TSN Radio, TSN 1050. You know who his father-in-law is? His father-in-law is Bob McAdory, who was
That sounds familiar.
yes, he used to be the entertainment reporter back on global television back in the day,
Okay.
and he's long since passed away. But he was also one of the legendary DJs on 1050 Chum, which is now TSN Radio here in Toronto. He like back in the I think 50s and 60s, he was like one of the main DJs on 1050 Chum. So on the topic of being incestuous, all these years later, his son-in-law is now with 1050 Chum.
All comes
with
full
1050
circle.
Chum, but it's now an all sports station.
Connections help. Or Adam Wilde on Kiss 92.5, son of Marilyn Dennis.
Yes.
Yep.
I knew you'd bring that one. So but the thing is, they work on
Yes.
for rival companies. And Aaron Davis's late daughter worked in Aaron Davis, who was a legendary DJ here, did the morning show on CHFI, which is also Rogers, which was also a sister station to Sportsnet Radio. Her daughter was a radio personality in Ottawa who passed away, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And she left behind a young daughter. And Aaron Davis has actually written extensively about her grief, losing her daughter and having to raise her granddaughter now. I think it's a granddaughter. But that's a really interesting story. And I think there was a foreword to her book by some other well-known personality. Anyway, Bob McCowan was the inspiration for this. His radio show was the inspiration for this podcast because we based it on the Roundtable segments, the Roundtable episodes of Primetime Sports. So it was interesting when he suddenly got let go. It all happened in one single swipe in June. They announced he'd be leaving, but he'd be allowed to finish the week. And then he was gone. And I think we'll put up a video when I get around to making the links. There's a link of his final moments hosting Primetime Sports. And I thought,
very run of the mill, very normal,
Episode.
nothing celebratory,
but
because he didn't want it to be.
no, he didn't want it to be.
Because he didn't go on his own terms.
No, that's a big part of it as well. But they did something kind of poignant at the very end. If you ever saw the video, you saw that. You do remember
the glasses,
that. Yeah, because
and they were focusing in. Yeah,
yeah. It was
and you
ironic.
could only see it. No one in radio could see that.
No one on radio could see it. But and I'll put up the video.
Okay, this I don't know about.
Okay, during the very last episode, in the very last couple minutes, obviously obviously the episode ended, but then Bob McCowan. First of all, we have to kind of explain his shtick with the sunglasses, and this also explains one part of the Anime Roundtable's logo too, right? I told you notice the logo is of the microphone with a pair of sunglasses draped on the rim. It's a nod to the show's inspiration. So Bob McCowan was always liked to wear sunglasses while doing the show. He claimed, I have no reason to not believe it. He claimed that he developed migraines if the lights got too bright in the studio, which the show just got started, began to be simulcasted. And this was like in, I think, 2004 or something, 2004, 2005 or something. Mm-hmm. The show just started to be simulcasted on Sportsnet television. And they had to bring in television lights. So McCowan started to wear sunglasses because he claimed he got a piercing migraine-like headache when those lights were on him. Mm-hmm. And it became perfect for his grumpy personality that he portrayed. And he fully admitted in some documentaries that a lot of this is an act.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, because more people would listen.
Because lots of people have gone to say that he is one of the kindest, most genuine people you'll meet.
Oh yeah,
off
camera. But he acts like such a grumpy character on, and he admits this is a shtick for him. This is the way he presents himself. Mm-hmm. But it sounds so. I get the feeling the real Bob McCowan, and I'm old enough to remember him as a sportscaster for Global. Mm-hmm. I'm old enough to remember that because my father, back in the 80s, would watch the evening news. He always had this habit of watching a local news program at 6 o'clock, and at 6:30, right on cue, he would change it to CBS and watch Dan Rather back in the day. And he sort of still, and my parents, for reference, keep up this habit. Today, they still almost religiously watch the CBS Evening News, whoever's anchoring it now. Her name is Nora O'Donnell, which I can't say I keep up with. In the 80s, we had our local news. My dad would watch Global News locally. Jan Tennant, who, as I said, I'm rifling off names. Many of you listening there, okay, a few of you listening there, would recognize.
Mike.
And she and Jan Tennant ultimately left Global, worked for CBC, and has since long retired. I know there was another name in all of that. Peter Truman, I believe, was the other main anchor for Global News. Jim Taddy, who we brought up a couple minutes ago, he was the 11 o'clock. No, he wasn't the 11 o'clock anchor. What he was the backup sports anchor there. But Bob McCown was the main sports anchor, and he was. How do I put this about Bob McCown? He was more happy-go-lucky, a lot more jovial, a lot more cheerful personality, a lot more of a joking personality. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw him, he left Global, and then when I heard him again a few years later doing the Jays phone-in shows, because he hosted the call-in program after Blue Jays games as well. Mm-hmm. And by the way, just going back a little bit, he is also the first public address announcer for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was just for 1 year.
He talks about that, yeah,
which he brought up quite a bit.
Up
But then that's where I started to learn about the personality the grumpy personality. In the radio show, they said Bob McCown. And when I heard him for the first time, he sounded so angry. And I thought, was this the same guy I used to watch as a kid on Global News? Turns out it was. Mm-hmm. And Bob McCown's considered a kind of a pioneer in terms of sports broadcasting. A lot of people hate him. I get that. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan, and I was a fan. But he's considered a pioneer because he was the guy that started Sportsline on Global Television. He started to make feasible the idea of a dedicated sports news show. As much as Bob McCown worked for rival Rogers, TSN will always point to him as kind of a pioneering force, saying, that whole idea of like a whole 30-minute show dedicated to just sports news being feasible on television.
Thing, yeah, in the 80s, that wasn't a given thing.
It wasn't a given thing. Like
even the sports radio wasn't a given thing.
Sports television, a dedicated sports television channel, that wasn't a given thing. Just ask ESPN. They did that. They kind of did that. Bob McCown started to give the idea that this could work in Canada as well with Sportsline. And then, of course, he's considered pioneering in terms of sports talk radio as well in this country. So his lack of appearance in any form of sports talk debate show in Canada is a pause for thought, because it really is kind of an end of an era for the genre for the industry here in in Canada at the very least. I'd say North America too. I think it's just that not many would know about him in the States. Mm-hmm. Now, as for his replacements, first of all, Jeff Blair kind of took over Primetime Sports, who's a former Globe and Mail writer. Mm-hmm. But
temporarily in the end.
Yes. But then when they announced all the shuffles and Jeff Blair would take the show to a 2 to 5 p.m. time slot, they renamed the show. It's now called Writer's Block. It's not called Primetime Sports anymore. They renamed the show Writer's Block. And
I thought they just flat out canceled Primetime Sports.
Well, the entire cast who did the show with McCown, Stephen Brunt, Richard Deitch, who the former Sports Illustrated writer. Oh, actually, he still, I think, does still do some work with them, and he does a podcast for them, actually. But they moved with them to the 2 to 5 time slot. But it just wasn't right to call it Primetime Sports anymore, because it wasn't the primetime spot anymore. So the show got renamed Writer's Block when the shuffle happened. And then the primetime spot belongs to Tim and Sid now, who go from 5 to 7. It's a simulcast of their television show on radio again, and they started off in radio, to be honest, or they started off their life in mainstream sports on radio. Although they were also with Sportsnet 360, which was basically the sports ticker.
Yeah, they were with
channel.
the score and stuff like that.
The score.
That's what it was.
So that's where things sort of stand at the moment. And Tim and Sid, I should mention this. Sid Seixeiro, obviously the Sid in Tim and Sid, he actually is a Mississauga native. He makes it known that he's actually an alumni of St. Francis Xavier Secondary School in Mississauga.
He went to Humber.
Yes, he did go to Humber. That was where
the northern campus. Yeah,
that's
where they have their radio program based.
Right,
in.
and that's where he got his start. So I went to another school in obviously being a Mississauga native. I went to a rival high school, so
rival Catholic school.
Oh yeah, and I think I'm a year or so older than Sid Seixeiro. So listen to the show, you'll know. Then you'll be able to pin my age. Anyway, I think we've gotten off topic again. Pretty good for 20 minutes in. Okay, so
that was only 20 minutes. Wow,
oh, wow,
only 20 minutes.
Well,
not a single mention of
anime
the topic.
stuff, right? Of anime stuff. We're gonna have to pause for when we.
It's like we'll have to get into another origin story.
Well,
we can talk about,
I can talk about the other inspiration for Anime Roundtable, which was it's another sports talk show, debate show. ESPN, the sports reporters.
The report. Everyone, that was a great one.
And then, which I thought was really good. Which was another one of my favorite shows. And we talk another Toronto native, John Saunders, and we're watching the Raptors game.
And John Saunders was one of the original play-by-play guys with Leo Rones and stuff like that. And Leo Rones was like, it was crazy how they let him go because he was making less money. He was doing it just for the passion. He could have went back to ESPN and all this other stuff. It was crazy.
And it was a little depressing because Saunders, they said Saunders really loved the job and he was crushed to have lost it. He lost the job not too long after MLSE bought the Raptors, by the way. So,
and when Vince and them were starting to get and stuff like that, and that was the crazy.
Really good.
And it's too bad he wasn't alive to see the championship in the parade. Like he probably would.
John Saunders passed away in 2016. Maybe ironically, his death was announced on CBC by David Amber. He died during the Rio Olympics. David Amber was the one who shared the news of John Saunders' passing to Canadian viewers during the Olympics coverage. And Amber worked on ESPN for some time, so he would have crossed paths with him, and almost certainly he was one of the guys who mentored Amber.
And as Leo Run said, he added that credibility.
Oh yeah,
right. In the broadcasting and stuff, and some of the people later on didn't quite get that.
Yeah, I think
because they were on the new VR.
Oh yeah, they were on.
You know what I mean? And it was not ESPN.
Yeah, no, they need it. It was a big thing at the time. It was huge that John Saunders became the TV play-by-play host of the Raptors because yes, they were starting off. At the time, John Saunders was also a Toronto news guy. He was the lead anchor for their sports coverage on City TV in the 80s. And then he moved to the States, worked in New York, and then moved on to ESPN. But he always maintained a residence in Toronto.
He was proud, yeah.
He was proud to do that. And had he lived, he would have hosted ESPN's coverage of the Hockey World Cup as well that year. Everyone mentioned that he was going to do that. And ESPN, ABC did acknowledge him during their broadcast of the championship, of the NBA championship as well. But one thing that the sports reporters did, and this was the story. This is the case for both shows, and why I drew the inspiration from those two shows specifically is by 2006, sports debate shows had become. In my eyes, kind of devolved into people just shouting at each other.
Yeah.
And the internet is still very much that way now. And I think I'm guilty of that myself. But I appreciated shows like the Roundtable on Primetime Sports, like ESPN, the Sports Reporters, and to a lesser degree, Dave Hodge's take on the show, TSN, the Reporters. Because they were more subtle, and I thought the tone was a lot more. I hate to use the word civil,
Yeah, it was a more discussion, stuff like that. And
yeah.
people made their points and stuff like that. And then it was an interesting thing. As you said, you can engage. You're like sitting there and stuff like that. And maybe you could jump in and throw in your point.
And because of it, because of the tone of the shows ended up, to me, sounding more enlightening and intelligent. And that's the tone I always want to bring to this show. Doesn't always turn out that way.
Especially during the old episodes.
Oh, especially during the old episodes. Well, yeah, especially when Neil and Adam did the shows together.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
So, but that's what I aimed for whenever we do the shows. Mm-hmm. And as I said, it's kind of a turn, and it's a turn that, to me, I tend to reflect on now that really it's not there anymore. But it's a tone that also I still want to try to keep with this show as much as possible. And of course, these shows did have lighthearted moments. Bob McCown loved to make fun of his regular co-hosts. Mm-hmm. There was this one moment, and then after 30 minutes, this is like the old format for our show, by the way. We always talked about something so anime unrelated for like half an hour, and then we got right to it.
We just don't talk enough about porn.
But that's what anime.
That's why it's better
Isn't that in the old ADV thing? Yeah. What is anime? Hentai.
Well, they didn't actually say that.
No, I'm pretty sure they did.
Well,
just watch it.
I will say, the thing is, that's why it's probably better to watch the show being taped live, because then when the microphones are off, that's when the real discussion begins. One of the regular co-hosts, I'm sure you know Jim Kelly. You remember Jim Kelly. Remember, I always jokingly refer to as the second microphone as the Brunt Kelly microphone, because based on
Kelly was there forever, man. Oh man, and
based on the
from Buffalo and that.
Yeah, based on the co-host mic, right? The second the co-host that Bob McCown would usually have.
I was not listening to prime time at that time. I was still much too young for
Jim
it.
Kelly is a Hall of Fame hockey writer. He passed away, I believe, in 2010.
Yeah, it was a long
2010
time
or 2011.
It was a long time.
It was some years ago. He was the co-host of. He was one of the co-hosts of Primetime Sports with McCowan, along with Stephen Brent at that time. Damien Cox, Jim Hunt. These are all well-known newspaper columnists in Toronto and Buffalo. Jim Kelly. There was this one moment where they were kind of where the debate kind of devolved a little bit, and Kelly made his points, and Bob McCowan dismissed him as he usually does, saying, "Stupid little American," or something to that effect. Stupid American. And then Kelly just simply said, "Hey, I take issue with being called American," which I thought was a great line.
But Bob's American too, isn't
yes,
he?
he is.
He's
from Columbus.
Yeah, they kept on mentioning that point about him being in high school, and he was like this foreign object that was there in the high school because he was American. It's like
that is the irony about Bob McCowan, I guess. He can be a bit contrarian at times too, but he was a good listen, at least from my standpoint, a good listen. But also probably why he got let go, because to a lot of people he stopped being a good listen,
which is a shame. But like the one thing I missed about McCowan is that when interviews came, he delivered good questions.
Oh, he was good.
Yeah, no,
he would push people to try and get the answers that he needed.
I guess the one interview that I really caught that really grabbed me recently, or in recent years, was when he interviewed Alex Anthopoulos just after he had stepped down as the Toronto Blue Jays general manager.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, yeah,
he talked to the guy, and Anthopoulos was at a loss to explain why he stepped down, and McCowan was talking to him like he was a family member. It was a really uncomfortable interview to listen to, but really well done. Maybe I should put up another link, because Richard Deitch did interview Bob McCowan for his podcast. A few years back, yes. Yeah. And that was a really good interview. Everyone mentioned that McCowan doesn't let himself get interviewed, but that's one of the few instances.
It's very rare.
Yeah,
he's like David Letterman in that sense, right?
Because I know there's a website called, I think, Toronto Mike.
Yes, he has which is a really popular podcast here.
and there was apparently some perceived animosity between Bob McCowan and Mike's followers, and Mike asked Bob if he would do an interview, and Bob refused.
Mm-hmm. And he's in Toronto. Mike has interviewed a lot of sports media personalities in Canada, and often they actually visit him to do the interview.
Yes,
because he often posts pictures just of when they come out to do the interview. Mm-hmm. Really fast. That's a really good podcast if you're into that stuff. Okay, I think now it's 30 minutes. I think we said enough.
Should we just do a break and then
let's get right to this.
Okay.
Let's get right to this because as I said, this is like old school Roundtable, right? How we used to do the show back in like the 2000 in the Comic Den era.
Or we can keep on talking about sports radio and say how Canada finally beat the United States in football.
No? Oh yeah,
remember that?
Big deal.
That happened while we were gone.
And then the
soccer or
match,
American?
Yes, in soccer at BMO Field. And supposedly the only people who probably saw were the people in the seats because they were streaming.
Let's be careful about that one because right now the U.S. will not leave Canada alone about what happened in curling at the Olympics. Okay, Promare. Let's talk Promare because there was this limited screening in September of that movie. I
wouldn't say a limited because it felt like it was still going on. And so some places got it more than others, you know what I mean? Like additional screenings and stuff like that. But I'd say it's been going on it went for a few weeks, you know what I mean? But we got a few weeks in there for Canada.
A few weeks?
Like a week maybe.
I'd say 2.
Okay.
So I'd say 2 weeks.
But you know, in the States, I think was a bit more, you know what I mean?
I think so.
Yeah.
It sucked because... And so kids, this is why if you really want to see a movie, you should buy your ticket in advance. Don't be like me, who kept on waiting to buy a ticket only to have the screening sell out. His Promare sold out every single screening it had.
I just lucked out and said, I'll go and watch the dub. The dub was quite nice, and I went and paid with cash.
Every screening at a reasonable time sold out.
Oh yeah,
that's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of us. Well, I guess it's okay that Mo's not here because I don't think he saw it.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Who knows?
Well, he would have had something else to offer for later on. All three of us saw it in different forms at different theaters at different times, and I really mean it when I say in different forms because James and I saw it in dub form.
Yes, correct.
And you saw it.
I watched it in Japanese.
And you watched it in Japanese with subtitles. It's just, I mean, let me tell my story about. Like, I think
yours is the more interesting because for me and Kevin, it's like it's a trigger movie. It is definitely a trigger movie.
A trigger movie.
You know the
animation the animation
like
style and stuff, right?
Yeah, and how they do things and stuff like that, and what they've done before in Gynex and stuff like that.
And I know, and I feel you could fill in a few holes for me because remember, I've been pretty much ripping.
And it was a lot of the team that had done stuff like Gurren Lagann and
Kill la Kill
and stuff like that. It was a weird one for me because I really enjoyed this one, and it can be hit or miss. Like, I really enjoyed Inferno Cop. I enjoyed Little Witch Academia. I enjoyed this one.
He's shaking
but
his
the
head.
other ones,
Kevin's shaking
I
his
was
head.
kind of blah.
Sorry.
Like Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann, I was kind of meh about.
Oh, I was shaking my head for a different reason.
Okay.
Ibaka looked like he got injured.
Oh yeah, we're watching we're on the topic of the Raptors. We are watching the Raptors play right now.
He was hobbling away. That
what do you
does not
mean?
look good.
What do you mean? It's not the second quarter isn't over yet, and Toronto has already scored 75.
They went on a crazy run there,
Yes.
like it was close, and then they just went.
It might be okay to let Ibaka rest now.
But
Anyway,
he's coming off the bench. Remember that
yes.
too.
Well, just they have a good lead. Let's see how long. Okay, let's continue here. My friend, you know the one who you know her. We often do our voice actor chasing at Anime North.
Yes.
Chasing at Anime North. She told me she wanted to go see this, and it surprised me because she's not usually into seeing movies, but she specifically wanted to see this. Was eager to see this, and I had no clue what this was about. because I don't keep up as much as I should, especially since we brought back this is the reason why Anime Roundtable was so hesitantly brought back last year, because I fully admit I have my trouble keeping up a lot of the time.
And I guess a lot of people wanted to see it as well because it's an original animation and it's the first time Trigger's doing a movie. This is their first form in the movie format, not in the TV format or anything else.
The Fujoshi also showed up for this movie too.
As in,
you saw the callbacks to Gurren Lagann and a lot of other things. Yeah, they hit their bases. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So, Mike, how many girls screamed during that scene?
Good thing no one screamed during our scream.
I think it's all out of my mind. I mean, it's some of the reactions of the crowd is kind of blocked out.
There were some screams.
There was no screams in ours on that point.
Really?
But there were no screams. I think
there was some laughter.
There was some laughter and some jovialness, but no screams in that.
Yeah, no, I don't recall hearing anything like that, to be honest. So
interesting.
So we saw. I mean, she told me about this. Try and get tickets. I was able to get tickets. Bought them online through the Cineplex app, and I was able to. It's just that the tickets were pretty vague. It said, or it didn't. I think there were two versions. One did say sub. The other said dub. I went with the sub one. We ended up watching the dub.
Oh,
because
that's right.
But the thing was, they were both set for the same time.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In the same theater. So we knew, okay, whatever it was, it would be whatever it was.
Okay.
And it ended up being the dub, which I must say was a very, very good dub.
No, I had heard
mean,
who was in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, a California dub, but it was a very good dub. And they usually do very good dubs. And I don't think it was Navi Post because I know G-Kids has worked with them extensively and stuff like that.
I'm more thinking about the actual,
stuff like that, and they've done.
I was more thinking about the actual actors, because you had names like Stephen Blum and Stephen Blum sticks out to me the most because
he was in this one.
Yeah, I think Johnny Young Bosch.
Johnny Young Bosch is in it. Yeah. Crispin Freeman is in it.
It was a union dub, so they definitely brought out all the people.
Kari Walgreen,
English now.
Stephen Blum.
Kari Walgren's in it too.
Yeah.
Oh,
she played
Kari Walgren.
Lucia.
Because remember, it's
Erica Lindbeck, Neil Kaplan. I mean, I'm going down this list. Michael Sinterklaas.
Sinter Nicholas. Oh, so maybe it was Navi Post then. Maybe
I mean, we can go down this list. Mike Pollock, Melissa Phan.
So actually,
you have some names, and we have a lot of former Anime North visitors amongst Fan Expo visitors who are in.
And now I might correct myself. It might be a Navi Post one bi-coastal and stuff like that. But they've worked and they've done some really good dubs for G-Kids, and they took
this dub seriously, right?
After some of the other ones where they've done Hollywood, Ghibli, they've really found those people, right? And they respect it in both languages.
Yeah, and they did really. I mean, I was impressed I did not know much about this going in, but I was thoroughly entertained. But the thought that came into my head as I watched this, and for reference, we watched this on I believe a Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, a Tuesday afternoon in downtown Toronto at the Young Dundas Square Cineplex, which, by the way, also doubles as lecture halls for Ryerson.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Of course.
And it's across the street from Amuji. And there was a good turnout. There was a really good turnout for a early afternoon. I think it was 1 or 2 o'clock. We wanted to get there early because we just wanted to be sure we get a good seat, but there was already a good lineup. I'd say almost 2 dozen in front of us to start.
Interesting, yeah.
Or at least a dozen, maybe
all
2.
All those university kids with nothing else to do.
That's probably that's what my friend and I surmised, actually, at the time. So, and yeah, it was a younger crowd, and they were into it, but maybe not fanboyish or fangirlish.
No screaming Fujoshi?
I'm serious.
Impossible.
I just do not remember.
It was more of a mixed crowd for us and stuff like that, but there was definitely some jovialness in our crowd and stuff like that.
Oh, the Fujoshi in my crowd made themselves known.
But it was a roller coaster ride for that movie because the action and everything is nonstop in your face, and they had to cover a lot in that amount of time. But they pretty much went the way you expected.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have the Donald, basically. Like, they could have just said the Donald for the main guy. That is, oh man.
Well,
He's a lot more handsome than Donald, though.
I'll say this much, and you just kind of alluded to it. The impression I got from the movie, and this is me as the getting up their age. It felt like it was a shout out or a parody of various fandoms in anime, like established fandoms over the last, let's say 15 years.
Yeah,
like
and there were shout-outs to previous works that they've done.
Oh yeah,
so,
the previous works, but there's to me,
and some people were shouting out at those points, especially things to go and log on.
So it made sense that like the reference, the Fujoshi reference you just made. Yeah, I can see where it could have happened,
and it's smart of them because you want to make films as accessible as possible. That's how you would, that's how films do well.
And the soundtrack is just phenomenal.
The
soundtrack and the animation, like all the action scenes, everything was just phenomenal for the animation and the music and what they put together in the interviews after the film. They talk about, and it was just the blend of both of them were incredible.
Throughout the film,
and the vocals,
I was thinking, like, I know this singer and I can't quite place who it was. I later learned it was Superfly, and she is one of my favorite Japanese rock singers. She does great stuff.
Yeah, no, she's been around and she does great stuff.
Yeah.
But that one, oh my goodness.
It must be noted, Hiroyuki
Hiroyuki
Sawano was the guy behind the music for this movie. And I've alluded to him in the past because he's appeared on NHK in their on the Songs of Tokyo special. That they did late last year, and I think I became curious about the anime he was associated with. They're at least on my Netflix queue, the ones that I could pin.
He's become popular enough that he gets the primary credit in any of those opening theme songs or ending theme songs that he's involved with now.
So is it safe to say that he's this generation's
Joe Hisaishi?
Well, Joe Hisaishi might be overstating it, but who's the other one? Oh, her name.
Yuki Kajira?
Huh?
Yuki Kajira, Yoko Kano?
Yoko Kano.
It feels like
I
haven't seen Yoko and Kano.
People are gonna say, like, you said Yuki Kajira before Yoko Kano? How could you?
The thing is, when's the last time you've heard something from Yoko Kano in anime? Like, it feels like it's been forever in my mind. And I'm not sure.
That terror show.
But maybe I'm just not watching enough. I don't know.
Pretty sure it was the terror either that or Kids on the Slope.
Yeah.
Was she? But even that's a while ago. Like a long time ago. Man,
I mean, is it safe to say that he has he might be
Terror in Resonance was what I was thinking.
I get the feeling. Like we make this joke about
it's a mediocre show.
I mean, we make this joke about Shinkai being the next Miyazaki, and maybe that's getting a little too far ahead of ourselves. That all said, can we say that about Sawano and Yoko Kano? This generation's.
I don't know.
Because these are different. Let's face it, they're different in many ways. But just in terms of the type of impact they have on the shows they end up associating with.
Oh, I don't know. Just because I haven't listened to enough of his stuff, like I didn't watch. I know he did music for. I believe he did All Noah Zero, and I didn't really pay attention.
Which is on Netflix, and that's on my queue. I haven't because I heard the closing theme, which was. I thought was interesting, which I thought had a nice beat to it, but
I think he's also collaborated with one of my other favorite Japanese singers, Ame. You can usually tell when it's his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, there's a style. There's a really interesting style with it, and he seems to be the guy right now. He's one of the guys in terms of any songs at the moment.
I didn't expect him to be doing it too, because I actually didn't pay much attention, and then I saw him in the credits, and I thought, oh.
And I think he was in the interview chair and stuff like that. When they said, please wait for the end of the movie to watch the interview.
Okay, do you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about your own experiences seeing this, or really mine are more run of the mill?
Sure, why not?
Because you saw the subtitled version.
Yes.
And where did you see it?
I saw the last subtitled screening in the GTA. Because I kept on, as I said earlier, I kept on putting it off, buying my ticket, and screenings would just keep on selling out, even as they added them. And I had no choice but to go to the Eglinton Town Center screening, which was at, I believe, 9:30. I went maybe 20 to 25 minutes early, and it was decently full at that point anyway. I'd say 2/3 full. A good mixed crowd. Mine was a lot more active, and people were reacting to certain moments. And as I alluded to earlier, the girls went wild during that scene.
Shout out to one of your fandoms, folks.
You
It's
didn't
great.
go active at that scene just to join the crowd? No.
No.
No, it just...
You know what? It's funny because before I went to the screening, I saw a bunch of Promare fan art. And a lot of that fan art has the two leads together.
Oh no.
Not necessarily like they're not banging each other, but it's fan art, and they're cuddling or they're being intimate. And so I already kind of had an idea.
That
I was like,
there was a scene that kind of
so I'm like, okay,
played
so
to
the Fujoshi are in this for a reason. And the lead up to that scene, I can already see it happening, and I can already hear the girls working themselves up to that scene. So it was fun. It was fun. That scene was a lot of fun to watch in that moment. I left that theater very, I don't want to say blown away, but like I walked out thinking, man, that was a visual treat. Like,
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it
like
was.
if you didn't walk away entertained, like you got your money's worth.
It was
like
my-
the anime, everything was put together so intricately, and they used their time so well. It's like, wow. It's like, how did they top themselves after that first movie for Trigger?
I'd say that was it's definitely in the top 3 of best experiences in a theater for an anime movie. First one being Redline, and Grave of the Fireflies is in that too, actually.
Where did you see Grave of the Fireflies?
When TIFF did one of their
Okay.
Ghibli screenings, they finally screened it because that was one of their usual omissions. But then the last time TIFF did it, before Cineplex started doing it, they finally screened Grave, and they finally... Actually, no. Did they... I think they finally screened Grave, and they finally screened only yesterday.
Okay.
When they didn't do that in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
And that'll be a tough one to do now because G-Kids has most of the licenses and they're doing the festivals and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Fireflies is its own license, so it's with Sentai and that.
All I ask is for a subtitled Ponyo screening. Like, give me a subtitled Ponyo screening. It's always airing in English, which is fine, and I get why they do it, but give us one subtitled screening.
When its anniversary comes out, just like all the other ones, they promote as this one has an anniversary coming out.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? The one that still gets me was that they said 15 years for Howl's Moving Castle, and I'm like, holy smokes, it's
We're
been that
old.
long.
Yes.
Ugh. That movie's not that good.
You know,
Sorry, not sorry.
That's on all your mind. What you want to? That's
Howls?
no. I mean the whole Promare experience. Is there anything else you want to add before I ask James about his?
Oh, you know what? It's just a pure visual treat. If you can sneak into one of the sold out screenings for December 8th, try and do that. 'Cause
Yes, it
a
has-
lot of those are already sold out.
Yeah. So as
Supposedly they're doing
Kevin
more
alluded to,
interviews, which
there's-
is kind of crazy. It's like, oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
that's why they call it Promare Redux. And actually, I was mistaken. Eglinton Town Center still has tickets available for their 10:15 p.m. screening of Promare. So if you can justify that, or if you don't have
exactly
work on
a
the Monday,
month. Exactly a month from today.
if you don't have work the next day, or if you don't care, you can do that. Because that's what I had to do.
Okay.
Driving like 40 minutes just to go there.
Oh, you drove.
Yep.
Good for you, dog.
I had no
James,
choice.
James, give me. Do you have a thought to add, like from your personal observation watching it in Mississauga? Because you saw this at Winston Churchill, right?
Yeah, I saw Winston Churchill, so we had people from Hamilton and stuff like that. I know Eileen and Norm were in the
Eileen
crowd
and
stuff
Norm
like that.
McAvoy,
and they were
the
enjoying it. They were enjoying
two-
quite a lot, and I enjoyed it.
And we have to say Norm and Eileen McAvoy, the programming directors of Anime North, were there.
Yeah. And they said the same thing. Like that was the furthest west in the GTA. So we had people from all over. That's probably why some of those sell out and stuff like that. But everyone still enjoyed the dub. Like I knew we'd get a treat. And it's just thinking, wow. And you're like, I'm guessing Trigger basically holds the license because it was interesting that G Kids is doing all this and then it'll get a release. So if it comes like their other ones to Walmart and it comes out for $20, like some of the other ones, that's a steal because it was a steal just going into the theater and experiencing all the animation, all the action, all the music, everything put together and stuff like that. And it was interesting because it isn't out on Blu-ray and that in Japan, but it's Aniplex doing that release over there. So it would have been interesting. Yeah, that's why I said I'm guessing Trigger did, because I was surprised. Oh, G-Kids got and it'll get a wider release and all that stuff. Because if it had been Aniplex, they probably would have gone whole hog like Fate and that, promoting it and doing like the crazy expensive special edition, right?
Mm-hmm. Which I'm sure would have been worth it.
I don't think they definitely would do as many screenings as G-Kids did and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I'm not sure if they would do those interviews. Like it's interesting with these special events they're doing is Fathom and G-Kids and some of them. They're adding these little like interviews either before or after. And we never used to get those and stuff. It's a very different experience compared to what we were used to. It's like, okay, you go and you watch the movie.
Yeah.
And then you get to hear from some of these creative stuff. And it was more than just, hello, thank you for coming to see the movie and stuff like that. You get into the minds of the creators. And that was the interesting part on the music and the animation side.
To be fair, Aniplex did do that for Fate, for Heaven's Feel. Yes, the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel. They did do
a version of that.
In the beginning where they, not as in-depth as the Promare one or the Marrying the Witch's Flower one, but yeah, other than that, I agree.
was saying they never really used to do that, but they're more into that over the past year and a half or 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Of doing these different experiences. And I guess that's the thing. Theaters are doing that because it's kind of like streaming. It's like that niche audience. You can say, okay, come in for this event or stuff like that, whether it's gaming or anime or something else, because they're not getting as many people probably in the seats as they used to, or they have to get in those more expensive IMAX seats, or the ones where like you sit in the chair and it's like you get to feel the rain and the wind and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Screen X.
You know what? If we had Screen X for Promare, I'm not sure we would survive. I don't know if we'd survive.
That would have been awesome.
Could you imagine?
That could have been awesome.
You just feel this heat coming on as the fire and all that.
Seriously, that would have been that would have been actually fun. Like I would have. I'd do that.
I just throw my money at the movie theater.
I'd do that. I'd do that. I'd so do that.
It's like just think about it. It's like, oh my god.
Okay, so let's talk about that. The post interviews. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, the music was brought up. So was some of the like it's blurry now because we're talking more than roughly a month and a half after I've seen it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much you remember.
And I'm still a bit blurry on that. Like
I know
remember them talking
style.
about how they were impressed with the music and how they were coming at it from not doing the movie format and stuff like that, and how it's like they talk about the animation and about how they were drawing lines and certain things that they hadn't
basically
done before
basically being really definite with their blacks, with their black borders and stuff. Mm-hmm. Which the music, before. Of course,
and I didn't really think about that. So the next time I do watch it, I want to actually think about taking note of that and stuff like that, because you never really thought about while you were watching, because it was so intense and in your face, and you're always
it was quite the art style. It was quite the art style, and like I when I was watching, I couldn't pin it, but I was the art style did get my attention, and I don't usually pay attention to this type of stuff, but it did. And then when they brought that up, I said, "Oh, I can start to see why it was like this." And then they talked the music, and we talked about Sawano. I know I'm mispronouncing.
No, that was pretty good.
Yeah, no.
And then I feel like I missed something, and there's something worth mentioning in that post credit interview.
Because it was pretty darn long.
If you go to the 10-15 screen.
Yeah, on a
You
Monday.
can
Oh, it's a
try-
Monday night.
But
Oh,
that's a
Sunday night,
that's
Sunday
a
night.
different
Oh, it's a Sunday
interview,
night, yeah.
probably. Probably a
Well,
different
probably
interview.
I really hope that these interviews end up on like as an extra on any possible Blu-ray release.
I'm trying to remember if the
Yeah, I hope
Opos one
so.
ended up on the DVD and stuff. Sorry, the DVD, Blu-ray and stuff like. But those ones were good enough that you would hope they would put it on the Blu-ray and stuff like that. I feel G Kids would think about definitely doing something like that, and I hope they get some other extras because they're usually good at getting them for Japanese and other things like that.
Yes.
Because they're really in depth. It's interesting to hear.
They
from the
are,
person
and I wish I could say more about it. It's just that I just remember being enthralled by those interviews. It's just the details right now are really blurry to me.
and it's interesting
Same
because
here.
it is G Kids, so it's not like it's going to be that special edition or the typical. It's going to be to the general audiences in a normal one, and that's kind of
I
nice.
do want a
because
special
I hope-
edition of that though.
I know what you mean, but
Well,
it's probably-
didn't they do one for Makia? Wait, was that them that did Makia? I don't remember.
No, that was not Maki. That was not them. That was remember G Kids and so 11 Arts was doing that, but remember
Oh yes.
they had the special editions are released by
Only
Right Stuff,
and it was only
And
for
then-
Right Stuff.
and then Shout Factory did the regular editions and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And Shout Factory does some stuff with G Kids and stuff like that. But the thing was for that one, for Makia, you had to get the special edition because Shout Factory, that was one of their few releases. They screwed up the
Yep.
Blu-ray on the
Yes, I
regular
heard
edition.
about
That's why I
that.
didn't get that one.
Was it the dub titles? Was that what it was?
It was
definitely,
two
yeah.
different video streams. It was weird. It was just bizarre. Two
Okay.
video streams for the English version and for the Japanese version. So it was just bizarre.
Well, I heard it was.
There was something going
Well,
on. That was just-
Makia. Well, from what I hear, Makia is decent.
Nah, I thought for her first film, it was a good film. I thought,
Okay.
Is this Mario Kata?
yeah,
Yeah.
and they wanted like for that one to see her, and for her first one, it is her voice and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed the movie and stuff like that. It definitely is poignant, especially by the end. So it'll leave you feeling. That's for sure.
What's
I
the
hear
name?
it's a little mixed.
What's the name again?
Maquia.
Okay. Okay.
For example, this month, A Silent Voice, that special edition is coming out.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one that they push back, we don't know the date, is Penguin Highway.
Oh yeah, I remember this A Silent Voice. That took a long time because of the music rights.
Well, they've got a lot of extras from the Japanese for the Blu-ray that were never even on the Shout Factory release. So they're definitely going all out. And if they can at least get some of those extras, video extras for Promare for G Kids, that'll be great. And they usually do. So.
I will say this much. Okay, having said all of this, and I guess I want to start to close this up. I will say, when we watched it, we were hoping to see the Japanese language version, but obviously we ended up with the dub, which wasn't really
English dub, yes.
Yes, the English dub. No real regrets. It's a good cast. And it's a well done dub. But I think part of it is also, since we were talking visual style, it gave us a chance to really appreciate seeing the whole, all the visuals full, unobstructed by. And this is probably now the older version of me starting to talk. Unobstructed by any subtitles on the screen. You could really appreciate the visuals.
Yeah,
in
like
this
I
case.
think you can
And-
enjoy it in either
and-
language, and as you
Yeah, and-
said, it's like you can really appreciate it all.
And I get the
there.
feeling that I could have suffered some sort of sensory overload if there was subtitles.
because
that
you're
day.
trying to do both at the
Yes,
same
read
time,
and
stuff
then,
like that.
but
yeah.
but the thing is, you really do want to appreciate these visuals. This was really well done.
there was so much, going on.
Having said all of this is a thought that kind of came into my mind as I was watching this and hearing about this. At the heart of this story, it's about fire. And I know, and I get this. The timing was coincidental, being with all this happening, in the same time frame as the Kyoto Animation
And it
Fire.
was released before that and
Yes.
stuff like that. And, if things
And
like
then
that, the
I know
fire.
that there's been now you can correct me. Has there been a trend towards like firefighting, emergency services as a plot line?
Some of them,
in
it was
anime-
just
in
it
recent
was,
anime?
No, it was weird that it just kind of happened that way. Like I know that one series that's on Crunchyroll and Funimation. Was it Fire Force or whatever? It was already a manga.
Yes,
and
it's
stuff like that.
by Atsushi Okubo of Soul Eater fame.
And then other things just kind of happened and were similar. Like,
Yeah,
I know for Vinland Saga, one of the versions supposedly was censored because of they burn a whole forest and stuff like that, so they can get back one of the main characters and stuff like that. And supposedly, if you didn't watch it on Amazon and stuff like that, you got a censored version on the Japanese TV networks.
It caught my the fire theme caught my attention because of the timing. And I'm wondering, has there been this type of trend? So it's yes and no, I guess. It sounds like
I think it's all unrelated. It's all unrelated.
It's unrelated, yes, but
is it only Fire Force in terms of firefighting anime?
Yeah,
as of
really,
late?
it's only that one and the other one, and it was more about they explained the fire and what it was burning inside them and stuff like that, and then you have those designs at the beginning and how they come into effect and stuff like that. It's like, oh, those are the arrows, and that's why that's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying. I also say this because after, remember, our last episode we did on the 18th anniversary of 9/11, and in the years after 9/11, you start to see fiction come out about battling terrorists or first responders, TV shows based on those type of plots.
But no, it's not because of
Kyoto
anything.
Animation.
Yeah, no, nothing like that.
And yeah, I get that. It's just
coincidence, as we say.
It's coincidence, yes, but that doesn't mean it didn't catch my attention, and that's just all I'm saying here. For what it's worth, and this is me putting my NHK hat on, and I will take that on and off again this episode and probably into the future, because, that's what we are now. I saw this documentary, this NHK documentary about, it was a 2-part series. One part was called Tokyo City of Water, and it explained the whole rivers and water system that exists in Tokyo. And then there was another documentary I found fascinating called, as you might expect, Tokyo City of Fire. And it's centered on a major fire that happened. I forgot the exact date. But then the culture that came out of it about dealing with fires for the future, and how a lot of that culture, a lot of that mentality, a lot of the procedures that were in place that came out of that experience, and we're talking the better part of 500 years ago, how much of that is still in place today? And different types of local fire battling brigade, not necessarily fire departments, but just how to evacuate, how to make your infrastructure sound, at least when major fires happen, so that people can stay safe. There's apparently this mentality. Japanese residences, apartment buildings, dwellings tend to be very small by nature. It's partly it's because of the population, the dense population, but a part of it is also a mentality that sort of came out during these major fires. Not to have too many, to have small dwellings, maybe not to have it a little bit minimalist, because at any second you may have to leave it. So you can quickly escape, maybe with just some key possessions. There was this, as I said, a mentality of that, and that's sort of hinted in that was explored in the NHK documentary, and I saw bits and pieces of that culture, of that firefighting culture. Uniquely Japanese firefighting culture.
Yeah, no, especially the main character in that. You saw that all throughout.
And you can kind of see what I'm referring to. You can kind of see it. I mean, if you I wish the documentary was easily able to find, because it isn't. I was lucky to have found it again, and be able to keep it in perpetuity, because I think it's a perfect background to some of the it's a perfect background to people who really got into Promare. At least you can get into some of the real Japanese parts of this movie by watching that documentary. That's something that just caught my attention.
You know what this is reminding me of? Sort of. This is reminding... this whole topic is reminding me of this little known firefighting manga that Viz put out 15 years ago called Firefighter Daigo of Fire Company M. Or no, Firefighter Daigo of Company M.
And that was Viz, I think.
Yes,
as
it
well,
is from
released.
Viz.
Give me a
And
thought.
I'm
me a
not sure
thought
if they
before
even
we end it
finished
off.
it because that was a long.
I have the whole
remember.
thing. It is done.
Oh, they did it. Oh,
I have the whole thing.
Who'd have thunk it?
And it's about a guy called Daigo Asahina who decides to become a firefighter, and throughout his career he works up the ranks and fights. He fights fires, of course, but it's really all about him growing up as a person while finding himself in these like bizarre and impossible situations and coming out stronger every time. Like, it's kind of Captain Tyler-esque, and you have this you find this impossible situation that he's in, and you're thinking, how is he going to get out of this? And then you later learn, you start to feel that, okay, this guy, there's no effing way he's going to get this done.
He's going to shonen his way through it,
and
huh?
he somehow gets it done. So eventually it just becomes a matter of like you just taking a back seat and thinking, all right, how's he going to do it this time? And I feel like every single time, like, the stakes get bigger and bigger and bigger, yet he comes out every time. Not always in one piece. Well, that's not fair to say. That's actually not the best way to say it. Sometimes he comes out of those situations a little broken. That's how I would phrase that. But it just shows, like, oh, I'm at a loss for words. It's just such a good manga.
And it's
in
probably
some ways
out
you're
of print now too, isn't it?
Massively out of print.
So probably if you did want to buy it, it's like hard to find. And God knows.
You can buy it digitally.
So they did. Yeah,
they
a lot
did
of it
do it
played
digitally.
I wasn't sure if they would have for that one. Given
You're not selling it, are you?
No, I'm not selling that manga. One of my favorite manga. And man, it's also one of Viz's poorest selling titles too.
So it's kind of like Tokyo Pop and Kendaichi.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I think
but
the joke was that I think those final volumes sold in the double digits at one point.
okay. Well, you make it sound like you're describing a character that is very much the archetype for the Promare's main character as well.
This series is criminally underrated. Like,
I believe it. I believe that one too.
if you live in Mississauga, the public library does have it.
Cool. I have to look.
So it's a good thing you don't have to donate your collection to them. To
Okay, so
spread the wealth.
Let's
fuck
plug
that,
it one
man.
more. Let's plug it one more time.
Try that for my cold dead fingers.
Let's plug this one more time. Promare is doing another set of screenings in December, and
December 8th.
And
in
if
the
you're
States
listening-
and Canada.
And if you're listening to this now, chances are it's sold out. By and large.
By and large.
They've definitely done well with some of those special screenings. I went to the Dreaming of Dreaming Girl one, and that was the continuation of the Bunny Girl series.
Rascal
That one
does not
did
dream
quite
of
well.
Bunny Girls, yes.
It was funny because that movie was like basically a continuation of a of a series that streamed on Crunchyroll, and it was basically like another arc. So if they had done 3 or 4 more episodes, it wouldn't have felt out of place, and they finished it so well that it just got that closure. But I think the light novel is still going on for that one, so it's one of those things. But the funnier thing on that showing out of all of them was someone was comparing the movie to the series, and I'm like, what are you bleeping talking about? It's a continuation of the same universe and the same, like, it's absolute bonkers.
Go figure.
I'm like, you can't compare them. They're in the same thing. It's a continuation.
As I said, go figure. Anyway,
But
recommend. Obviously, if you get the chance to see Promare, check it out. I wish we could talk about other stuff. It's just there's so little time.
and that
If-
one
I
funny
mean, when
was
it comes to
Aniplex too,
an-
the bunny girl
on
one,
the anime
yeah.
stuff. But is something else you want to add?
Promare is a visual feast.
Yep.
Very tightly written script. A lot of fun characters.
A lot of fun, really. Just generally.
Yeah.
No, it's like a popcorn movie. You go in, you have fun, you come out. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
You don't. It's not.
You can turn off your brain.
Yes,
and
that's
just, you know
basically
what I mean?
it. Turn
And
off
you
your
just-
brain. Doesn't have to. It's not the most enlightening piece, but it's certainly entertaining.
I urge you to watch this film in any way possible.
Which means people are going to torrent
But
it.
I would say,
Okay.
look, of all the movies, Wuthering with You and that one, Oh my goodness! Like
would chase-
I enjoyed Promare in the sense of I was absolutely entertained, and you could just keep on watching it again and again.
I will chase.
That was one of those type of movies. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Like I could have said, okay, let's rewind the film and just start it all over.
I get the
again.
feeling I'll be chasing Northern with you early next year.
If I had not, if I was aware of the re-release sooner, I would have bought another ticket. I would have
You would have seen it again.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's take the break. We're going to set up the bullets. I wanted to play a game of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with the bullets, but I don't think we'll be able to. Although I did. Yeah,
Why is that?
well, we'll explain it right after, okay?
Okay.
Let's take the break. Back with more. It's the Anime Roundtable on 6 Talk. And the podcast now continues from our 6-point studio here in Etobicoke, the west end of Toronto. Nicholas Austin, ing around the table. I was about to say you use the usual stick in front of a live audience online via the 6 Talk Podcast Network, official podcast Anime North. So, as I said, since it's been 2 months, and traditionally since we did the shows, like whenever we've done tapings, either Mohammed or one of you guys, they always brought something. Donuts. In the case of Neil, edibles. No comment, right?
Well, yeah. So
Feeling bad for not doing something, and plus it was on sale. When I was at Costco earlier, I bought cookies.
see, but you don't need to feel bad because you always have like cans of Arizona ready for us.
Which will not be here come the new year because the leftovers are like the remaining dozen or so cans are probably being sent to my parents for Christmas as part of the Christmas dinners. Maybe
It was good while it lasted.
maybe
warm
if I
Arizona,
remember.
Oh my god.
with
Like,
the cookies
I-
that
That's
may or
not
may not
see, James, they're usually in the fridge. That's not fair to say. The ones we drink are cold.
Like, this is hilarious. Okay, the cookies. Like, I was at Costco today just doing some shopping. And you know how in supermarkets, just as you get to the cashier, you see the chocolate bars.
Yes.
The chocolate bars, just to tempt the kids, just so you have a kid saying, "Mommy, I want that." Right? Costco doesn't have a version of that. At least I typically wouldn't. But that's where I found these cookies. Just before the cashier, they
That
were on
makes no
sale.
sense because usually they have them by the bakery area. at
No,
the
they
back,
did.
you
You're
know what I
right.
mean?
But they had these because, well, they had them on sale for like a couple bucks off. And looking at the best before date, it'll be I think Tuesday,
that's
which
why,
basically is when this episode's going to go up. But they had that there right at the cashiers, and it's probably one of those things that'll, on a Friday when families are bringing their kids to do some of their grocery shopping or whatever shopping they do at Costco.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're pretty sure more than 1 or 2 kids will see that and try and get their parents to buy these cookies. And these are good.
These
they're
cookies are
chocolate.
crack.
It's
They are
crack. It is like I mean, how many have you eaten of these? Because there's like
Not enough.
You must have
There's-
eaten quite a few
there's
because
at
that's
least-
like a lot of cookies.
there's
I've
like
seen them before.
there's like
Eat
18
them.
cookies in here, I think. The better part of 18 cookies by my count. Yes, Kevin's pushing
him
away.
away.
Yeah, I've had 3. How many have you had?
think
You've had
just two.
2.
Just
You've had
two.
at least
Yeah,
2
just two.
because I bought the variety pack. There's 3 flavors: macadamia,
Oh, I
chocolate,
I ate
Dub-
like 4.
And regular chocolate chip, yeah.
and regular chocolate chip.
I think I had one chocolate chip.
I
and
just
one
want to try
double
one of
chocolate.
each. It's not in my best interest to touch them any further.
I usually don't like white chocolate macadamia, but these ones, man.
These are good.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of people enjoy them. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. And once again, bringing out the, putting on the sunglasses. Maybe I should start using the sunglasses.
Hey, it's
During
your
taping.
house.
I know, the lights are bright in here. Since we have the television lights. The tradition that the Primetime Sports Roundtable always did whenever doing the second segment or the later segments was to do a bullet segment, just items in brief. And Bob McCown always liked to use the phrase, and we're going to use it again, These are little items which may become big items. But I want to play a small spin on it this time around.
Do tell.
Well, I joked with you guys, I wanted to play a game of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with this, or 6 Degrees of Separation. So to this end, I wanted at least a couple of these bullets, and realistically, I think there's only 3 or 4 we're going to do. And then maybe we'll talk about some other stuff before we end off tonight, because this is likely to go 2 hours, I think, at the rate we're going. But I wanted at least each story to relate in some form to another story in these bullets.
Okay.
That's sort of the concept. And I can at least do 3 links already. And some of them are hilarious, by the way. I thought hilarious. Well, I've kind of briefed you guys, so let's get started. Over the last 2 months, we talked a little bit about the Cowboy Bebop live action that's coming up. We talked about the casting call and what the casting directors wanted to look for in each of the depictions of the main characters, and we learned about some of the cast, actually, with John Cho leading it off as Spike. Mm-hmm. And by the way, let's get this out of the way now. Yes, production has been halted for the better part of, I think, 8 or 9 months because of an injury Cho suffered on set. I don't know the particulars.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll do it, but they decide, no, we're going to stick with this casting choice and stuff like that, and so it's basically delayed.
Yeah,
while he heals up and stuff like that.
Well, he heals up,
because I think they were in New Zealand, they said, doing this. So.
Oh,
Okay.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot the rest of the cast off the top of my head, and they're interesting choices, and we'll see how it pans out.
He's come a long way since being Harold.
Yes, he has.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, no.
Really has.
But I think one of the things that got the internet going was, well, when they mentioned, we joked around about it when reading the casting call. First things first, they have yet to decide on Ed. There's no sense, we have no still no clue on Ed, even though Ed is clearly being marked for, so we don't know who's going to play Ed yet. But the one thing,
be a child, no?
I suppose. We'll learn more, I guess, in due time. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, well, we joked, what about Ein? And guess what? the first trailer that comes out for the Cowboy Bebop movie was basically the first cast meeting. A parody of was basically the first cast meeting, and it introduced the dog playing Ein. Basically, Ein. It followed Ein as he met the cast for the first time, and needless to say, watching it. First of all, I know the internet really got into that.
They love the corgis,
but it's clear that Ein is a method actor. he was in character right away. But I guess this makes it something to look forward to. I've said this before. I always take fascination with adaptations because I like to see what they do and don't do with it. I said this with the Bleach live action last year, and I've always maintained that stance all these years through the almost more than 13 years that this show has been around. Mm-hmm. I get it. We've been off for a while. I've always maintained I take fascination because I want to see what the producers and directors thought was important to include and not important to take out from the original material. Mm-hmm. And if the original creator was around, what would they say about it? I mean, I said this about Kenshin as well. Kenshin's the easy one for me. So there is curiosity about how this will turn out, and it sounds like Netflix is putting a lot of care into a fair amount of promo and care into this. Well, you have a thought? Just
time will tell. It's a long way.
What would you take on the Ein thing, on that Ein trailer? That was hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's what you expect. They know they have the audience with a corgi. It's might as well go for it.
Well, I think they got a lot of people on side to at least see this when it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll at least watch episode 1.
Yeah, it's simple but effective, and they didn't have to spend a lot.
No, they didn't. But I thought that was
the
such
low
a cool
hanging
thing
fruit.
to do.
Oh.
Well, the funny part was it was my little sister who sent me the link the first time when who drew my attention to it, and she was so happy to see the corgi. But it is something to look forward to, and as I said, they probably got more than a couple views for the series itself when it finally comes on.
Color me curious.
Yes.
I will somehow watch this show.
Mhm.
We'll likely have to go to a friend's house, but I will want to give this a shot.
When it comes out like more than a year from now. At this stage.
I'm not one of those people who will be adamant that it stays exactly the same, but I think it's a fair assumption that they'll mostly just adapt the Spike Vicious storyline. But I think there's some hope. That's all I'll say. There is some hope.
And I'm curious to see what type of stuff they do, what differences will come out.
Flavor.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Vicious,
with the oddness and
because
all that.
Vicious really never was like he only appeared a few times in the original anime.
Yeah, for
and
the
then,
flashbacks and stuff.
and then
I just wonder about the music.
Oh,
'Cause
wouldn't that be interesting?
That Yoko Kanno soundtrack is hard to beat.
So it'll be interesting. Well, the thing is, they kind of hinted. You've heard a lot of that bass in that promo. So it might be along the same line. I don't know definitively if she's involved in this in any way.
I don't think so.
I would be
I
surprised.
don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I would be surprised, but I get the feeling you'll get some sort of a similar beat to the music. So there's our first link. Let's continue. Okay, so Anime Central announced this week, just before Halloween, Rie Tanaka. Name one role you would remember Rie Tanaka for. The Japanese voice actress. I mean, she's going to be known for something else come December 23rd, but
Oh God.
one thing, just one role right now.
I don't even remember.
Do you remember Chi from Chobits?
I read Chobits. I didn't watch it.
Chi from Chobits is the one I would remember her for.
One of
she's
Clamp's more divisive shows.
divisive, yes, without
As divisive as a photo book of
Rie Tanaka.
Wow, when the on off switch is down there, like when you have that switch at her crotch, I don't know. You tell me. You tell me, and that's not even regarding the whole master-slave relationship thing.
Well, we're talking computers
Is
anyway.
that
so,
what the photo
like,
book's
I mean,
about?
it's
I
great.
didn't know. It's something.
Which, by the way, in a sense, Deers made it worse.
Yes,
but in any
well.
case,
Rie Tanaka, we have to mention this, and here's our first link. Rie Tanaka, of course, is the ex-wife of Koichi Yamadera, who played Spike in the anime Cowboy Bebop.
oh man,
And bookending it before and after the marriage, she did some pretty interesting photo shoots. She did like a bikini a gravure bikini type photo shoot before she got married to Yamadera, and then 8 years later, after the divorce, here she is, and she's about to come out with a photo book, and she's teased. That's a bad word. She's previewed it on her Twitter, and I guess we have to give a link, but I don't know what link is the best one to give.
I'm not sure what one is the
Because I've shown. Well, the thing is, I showed you a couple links, but they had a lot of extracurricular stuff, which clearly isn't safe for work.
Yeah.
I mean, she put this on her Twitter. I think it's been mentioned on Sora News. I think it's been mentioned on Anime News Network. She's appearing at Anime Central in mid-May, a couple weeks before Anime North. What's the over/under on how many? And she has that. And I mentioned the photo book,
yep.
which will come out on December 23rd.
I think you should get the photo book, Mike, and I think you should take that and get it signed, have a conversation starter. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's asking for trouble.
well,
Could be
it's-
asking for trouble.
well, at least it's publicly known that she's done it. It's not like Kikuko Inoue, who you must not mention the fact that she's performed in hentai anime.
Yes, she has. Yes, Ogenki Clinic, right?
Yes. Okay, I'm going through Rie Tanaka's role. See, like, I didn't watch Chobits. I read it, as I said.
Give me one.
See, Gundam Seed I watched in English, so I didn't really hear her performance as Lacus.
I'm glad I gave you guys the passwords, by the way. The Wi-Fi.
Yeah, because she was big. Okay, was she around the late 90s too? Because
I
I
don't
know
know
her
about the
more for
90s.
her
Yeah,
like
she's more
2000s.
2000s.
It's
I want
aughts.
to say the aughts, the early aughts.
We're talking
and the
we're
mid-aughts,
talking early to mid aughts.
mid-aughts,
Yeah, that's probably when prime time was.
Yeah.
Wow, Steel Angel Kurumi.
Ooh,
Yep, that's early
yes.
2000s. Yeah, late
there you
90s.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Strike Witches, that's a little more recent.
Yep.
Oh, she's Yomi in Azumanga Daioh. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
There you
Oh.
go.
Oh, she's Simka in Air Gear. Okay, that's something I recognize.
But she had
her
a lot
doing.
of roles in the early aughts and the mid 2000s.
Yeah, and she's still somewhat active, but
Yeah, no, she's still.
I mean, I'm looking at these photos.
Oh, and she's Mari in High to the Combat. Okay, yeah, I know. I've seen her in some roles.
Okay. I mean, I'm watching these photos and I'm just looking at the news. Looking at the news, we were watching the Raptors game.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry has a broken thumb.
Well, given how he ended the season last time, it's like, man,
Yeah.
oh man.
Anyway, what was I about to say? Yeah, looking at these photos.
Either they have
I'm wondering-
incredible like team behind her, or
Oh yeah,
damn,
they do.
it's
Those-
like
the only thing I'll say, and I can easily say, she's in my age range.
she's not looking her age range. Let's put it that way.
Interesting. These are
Either
interesting
it's the-
photos. I have to say the least. Okay, I wonder if there's a link to if I find a link to purchase this book, I will at least put it up. I'm not totally sure. I'll click on it myself, but
Just don't put it on the coffee table, Mike.
oh, if that's here, it's so on the coffee table. But it'll just be clutterific. It'll just be clutterific with everything else on that coffee table right there, including that Super NES Mini that's been gathering dust for the better part of a year.
Oh,
You can see it, right? Now that I pointed it out,
Yeah.
because it's been there every single time you've come up for a taping, but I've just never.
Don't
pointed
worry,
it
I
out.
can modify that for you if you want some
It's
extra
okay. It's okay.
SNES.
We're good.
You know what that means, right?
Yeah, I know what
that
it
means.
means.
You're never gonna play it.
Yeah.
and that you should get rid of it.
Well,
Could have made his money
You know what?
when
Yeah,
they
I can make it.
finally
I can
were
make it.
trying to get rid of
well,
it.
the thing is, I can now it's at below cost now, right? So
You'd be surprised.
maybe
You'd be surprised.
we'll see. Anyway, so there's the connection, and then I have to say this about Koichi Yamadira.
Yes.
Yes, because this is like he's been married. This is the failure of a second marriage for the guy. He's known for Spike. We know that. If you want to go more mainstream in North America, he voiced Shrek.
Voice Shrek in
Wow,
Japanese.
Yeah, he voiced Shrek in
something-
Japanese.
That must be something. Ooh.
Yeah, he's known for a plethora of roles. We can look that up, but we don't have that type of time. He was married to another voice actress, Mika Kanai, beforehand. She was popular in the 90s herself. I keep mentioning I have this voice gallery book sitting somewhere, and it featured all these photos of various photos of, and they're not provocative, just modeling shoots of voice actors and actresses from Japan in the 90s. And these were pretty classily done. Mika Kanai was one of those back then. So to check the list for Mr. Yamadira, say you're from the 90s, say you're from the aughts. So we'll see what comes up from this decade. So another link. Well, that's bullet number 2. Bullet number 3. Okay, all right. And now the 6 degrees. We're just getting to 2 or 3 degrees, really. 2 things that have caught my attention, at least on Netflix lately. I finished up the second Terrace House series. Remember we made fun of Terrace House back then because it featured a porn star for one episode.
Yes.
Well, there's now 4 series on Netflix. So Boys and Girls in the City, Aloha State, Opening New Doors, Boys and Girls 2019-2020. Those are the 4. There's a 5th, which was originally to Fuji Network, which wasn't all that big. Or at least we never saw here anyway. But I finished Aloha State last week. I started and I watched the first 2 episodes of
Guessing that takes place in Hawaii or no?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, so
and
they didn't do
then Opening New Doors takes place in Nagano.
Okay.
And I know, I'm way behind because I think Opening New Doors goes like 46 episodes, and they're well into the 4th series now. 2019, they're into the 2019 series now, well into it, because I think that started in May. That has a cult following, and I think Netflix has that thing with Fuji TV right now going. The other thing, the other key thing from that agreement that I watch is Shinya Shokudo. Remember, I mentioned Midnight Diner, Tokyo Stories, and how much I looked forward to seeing a second season of it, at least for Netflix. It came out this week or last week.
Okay.
And that's a good watch. I told you how much I liked that show back then. I always said, like, that came out in the first season for Netflix, and it's been going on long before that. Had been going in 2017. It had been going before that. There's been 2 movies. I actually have the Blu-ray of the 2 movies, but they're still sealed up. I have to give myself time to watch them. But I did watch the first episode of the new series, and it has the same feel, the same nostalgic tone that the original series already had. And I always made the joke, if there's a pop-up at Anime North that just offered all the dishes featured in each of the 2 seasons, I think it could do really well. Just a suggestion, just take maybe the Japanese restaurant in the hotel or the abandoned Chinese restaurant in the back, which is currently used, I believe, as pickup for people's luggage.
Wait, it closed?
Yeah,
it's
been long
closed.
gone. It's been long gone.
It's been long gone. Like the past few years, like that, it's been like
been
it's
used
still
for-
there, but it's basically nothing's happened. And
The space is there. They use it for to hold people's luggage, I think.
But they
after
must
they've
have done
checked out.
something with down below because they used to use that as a staff room and stuff like that, and they don't do that anymore.
I think if you do a pop-up based on and have it open all night, that might be asking for trouble. But and this is to any of the businesses maybe along Airport Road for the Anime North weekend. And if you do this, let me know. Just stay open all night. Offer the 10 dishes or the now 20 dishes featured in the Netflix series. I think you could have a lot of fun with that. And if you want, have the staff, at least one member of the staff, cosplay as the master from that series. You know, in the blue with the apron with the scar on his eye. It's really well. It's based on a manga, really well done. I fully recommend it.
Okay.
Especially if you're old. But I can't say enough about this series. Some blogs have already had fun with it. There's a popular Japanese food blog called Just One Cookbook. The woman who runs that is a huge fan of the show, so she's put up recipes like her recipes for the 10 dishes that were made in the first season. And as the second season debuted, she put up links again to those, and she asked, okay, which one of the new dishes would you like me to do first as a featured recipe? And she's gotten a lot of feedback. So this is something worth watching, and it'll probably make you hungry. I mean, it was a cult favorite back then. People wondered about the food. I wonder about the food. And now I'm craving chicken rice because that was the first episode of the second season, and I watched that earlier, just before you guys got in. So, as I said, highly recommended. We'll put up a link to the second season trailer, which is essentially just the opening for the second season. But honestly, it is well done. So, worth looking, and it's been adapted. I know that there was a Korean adaptation of the show some years back as well, and I think I'll double check if there's been a Chinese language adaptation. But it has its thing. You can add that along the lines of the other Japanese and I guess other East Asian programming that has been popping up on Netflix lately. So there's that. And 3 Degrees, and I think that's the best I could do tonight.
If we kept on going the full 6 degrees, we never end.
And we only have really 29 minutes to go. Okay, so but I do have other recommendations to make, and I wanted the others to. Oh, I guess I should say this one too. During BlizzCon last week, they
the protests and all
well, we can talk about the protests. I don't like going there because that's a tough thing to talk about. I know that. This is not me waddling. It's just we've been here for a while already.
I think the real thing as well is it was another reminder of who owns Blizzard, and that being Activision, because if it had been Blizzard, would they really need to do a 2? I think someone in the investment course said, we need to make a sequel.
Oh, yeah, and we're talking...
You know what I mean?
Well, The sequel, and the sequel we're talking about is
Put
Overwatch.
it. Yep.
Overwatch 2 was announced at BlizzCon, and they also hinted at some of the maps. And hooray, Toronto is depicted.
Yeah,
So
I guess
people
they
are-
wanted to plug the esports, right?
Yeah, we had to plug the esports because Vancouver sucked in the Overwatch League final. At least I didn't bet on them.
And then they can bet on esports in Vegas. Who knew?
Well, I get the I get the feeling that's there now. Actually, wouldn't be shocked. And the Overwatch World Cup happened last week as well, and the U.S. won that, upsetting Korea. So, but they also showed off the first pictures of the sequel to Overwatch, Overwatch 2, and Toronto was hinted as one of the maps. We don't know the type of map it'll be, but we saw what they... Remember what I said about what do producers think matter? What did they put in? What did they take out when they do adaptations? So Overwatch is set, a couple centuries into the future? And they obviously gave a futuristic look to Toronto. And what's depicted? Nathan Phillips Square, Rogers Center, the Dome.
Yes, CN Tower still
CN
standing
Tower is
somehow.
still
Still
standing,
standing.
And all these things will have different looks. The Flatiron Building, the great Flatiron Building has been futurized. And for some strange reason, there's a hockey statue. Maybe not for some strange reason.
I mean, they should have had the Kawhi statue or something like that.
Well,
Or is it too
it's
soon?
fully expected, and maybe even more stereotypically, the city is depicted in ice. Okay, I'm just curious to see. Like, all of us like to be inward looking, I guess. Like, what do other people think about us, right? I think that it's only human to think that, and I think Torontonians took fascination in in the adaptation given. And I think as Overwatch 2 comes out, and then we see its ultimate adaptation into the Overwatch League, assuming that's still around. Excuse me. We don't have cough buttons here. It was fascinating to see.
It's
see
very
the
early
look.
days, so we'll also have to see what
I mean, I
happens,
love their
you know.
take. I love their take on the TTC streetcar. There is a take of the TTC streetcar.
The
in
new
all of
ones
that.
or the old ones?
They look like the older ones. Yeah,
Oh,
they look more like
for the
older
more
ones.
iconic ones. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
So, but I thought it was interesting to say the least. Yes, the Toronto sign's depicted as well. Oh, the Toronto sign. One last thing, I guess we should mention the Toronto sign because I thought it's one of the most iconic pieces of the last 5 years.
Which is kind
In
of
Toronto.
crazy when you think about it because it was there for the Pan Am Games. And
it was
just
meant to
became
be
its thing.
temporary.
Yeah, it's temporary, yeah.
But remember, that's the key thing with the story of concerning recent events surrounding the Toronto sign. It was temporary, and the problem is the sign, by all accounts, is breaking down a little bit. Is breaking down, so the city has announced that it has to be replaced. That this version of the sign is going to be taken down and it'll be replaced by a more sturdier version. But it'll look the same. The discussion has been in recent weeks or in recent months since that announcement was made. What's going to become of the original sign? Enter a little town in Ontario, and I forgot the name of it because it's like take 2 letters out and anagram the rest of the letters. But they Orono or something like that in Ontario.
How'd they just go to Toronto, USA?
No. there's a town called Orono, which is 87 kilometers, so less than 100 kilometers, about 50, just more than 50 miles east of Toronto. And they started a petition to take in the Toronto sign because you can just take out a couple letters.
I saw some of that.
Take
map.
out the 2 T's.
It's pretty cool. I wasn't paying attention to most of that because I was looking up something else that I want to talk about a little bit later. But so those maps look really cool. Like I just took. So sorry, those images look really cool
from Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
Well, or going back to Orono, they want to take in the Toronto sign and take it in for themselves.
orphan letters.
Yeah, orphan sign. Just take out the 2 T's. Toronto, for its part, hasn't said anything yet.
You know what drew me to seeing those images?
What?
Because on the Toronto subreddit, they mentioned how you can see, like, I think you can run through the subways in that map, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
I think. Don't quote me on that. But
Do they have the relief line and all those other things?
So that's what I was going to get about.
Oh yeah, because they depicted a take on the Toronto subway map,
and
right?
And yes, the relief line was there, and I don't know if it goes from Ontario Place to the Ontario Science Center, but the Queen Street relief line was there in some form, as well as a bunch of other subway lines that we will never see in our lifetime.
And I think that was actually, you're right, that was a part of the discussion. I remember that. Oh, that was hilarious. And having ridden the subway, like, I don't ride the subways nearly as much as you.
Futuristic.
Oh, I rarely ride the subway.
But you do use the public transit more than I do.
I don't know. Hard to say. Okay.
I mean,
you
use commuter trains, right?
So I use the Go more because I live in Mississauga, but I avoid taking the TTC as much as possible because I actually like walking around Toronto.
Oh, it's a walkable. In some ways, it is
downtown,
a walkable city.
I'm that crazy guy that will walk from Union Station to the Annex. I will walk all the way up to Bloor Street.
And it's not because you're cheap, because it's just fun.
No, you can do
that.
It's
it's a fun walk.
Because I enjoy to people watch. I like to look around. I'm never bored walking around Toronto, unlike Mississauga. And you get to see a lot of different interesting things that go on, or different sites.
I have a story there.
And
honestly,
like sometimes, okay, if I'm in a rush, yes, I'll take it. Or if I need to take a long distance, then like today I had to take the subway to your house. But other than that,
you had to take the subway to the 6 Point Studio. Right?
So otherwise, it's like, you know what? If I don't need to, I don't take it. Especially like, oh man, sometimes those streetcars get so backlogged.
Yeah, no, especially King and that I know.
King and Queen are the worst offenders. Yes.
Anyway. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the little story I have.
Overwatch too. All these people bustling out of streetcars,
it'll be interesting. There's no release date.
Probably
There's no release date set for the second Overwatch game, and so I guess we're playing next season.
They're gonna give them a bit of time before the investors crack the whip and say, "Get it out."
Well, yes, and it'll probably change the game, change the way competitive Overwatch is done. Obviously, when that time comes. Now that you brought it up about people watching, I'm going to tell you this story. And as I said, once again, unrelated, sort of quasi non-anime related, but I think you'd find it kind of interesting.
Half the time we're not talking about anime anyway.
Oh, and we have trouble staying on the Asian pop theme as well. One of the key things, I heard this story about one of the things that made Benny Hill successful. One of the things he always had a habit of doing was people watching. He would go, when he was looking for ideas for a lot of his skits, he would go out just into London for much of the day. He'd take along, and really it was just to go enjoy being outside for the day. He'd take along a newspaper with him, right? But more often than not, he ended up people watching, and everyone always said that Benny Hill, like, he'd go out with an empty newspaper, with no notes in it. Like, just that.
So it's like the front page has words, but inside there is nothing.
Well,
I think it had things he was writing over it.
But the thing is, they always said when he came back, there had been notes constantly scribbled in the newspaper.
Huh.
And with it, because they said that Benny Hill always did a lot of people watching while going out to read. And he found, and whatever fascinated him, he'd write down, and somehow he would incorporate into his humor, into the skits he did for his shows. Mm-hmm. I think that was one of the big secrets. Well, not the big secrets, but how he came about coming across a lot of his material for his shows.
Yeah, no,
I thought it was great. I thought that was a great story, though. And Benny Hill, it's worth mentioning, as much as he depicts himself as a pervert, a complete pervert in his skits, the man was by all accounts, as cultured and as sincere. We talked about Bob McCowan being a shtick, and his grumpiness being a shtick. Benny Hill was much the same. He, as much as he acted like a complete idiot and pervert in his shows, he was well cultured. He was fluently bilingual in French. He was well mannered and really generous.
So, like a well cultured version of Yo Saiba, then.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah,
bring
you
it.
know, yeah.
Nice way to
Bring it
go.
back
Bring it back
together.
to the
Bring it
anime.
back.
Way to go.
In case people don't know, Ryo Saiba is the main character of
He's
City Hunter.
He's City Hunter.
And that's coming back next year too with the movie and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming to North America and that. Even
No,
though it
that's
was
basically-
showing the year before.
My
year.
only disappointment in that is that they are clearly bringing it back for the fans, and it should be. I feel like City Hunter needs an update. It needs a more modern update,
Not a reboot, just an update.
like reboot in the sense that don't just cater solely to the fans. You want to bring in new people too.
I'm glad you said that.
Like how
Finish your thought,
it's
and
like what
then-
happened with Yamato or Devilman.
Finish your thought.
And they somehow got
Finish that thought
JoJo's,
because
another
I-
80s
because
one.
that
And
nicely
somehow
ties-
it's managed to
That-
come back, even though they tried and tried. And now it just happened.
It's because it was an actual TV show rather than OVAs.
Finish your
Fair
finish that
point.
thought.
But
Finish
the
that thought,
manga, they
'cause I
tried.
do have a
Remember, it
thought.
was the TV show that jump started.
Like, well, there wasn't much more to it, but just give me a City Hunter like TV series reboot. Come on.
Or you could watch the French movie that they brought back to Japan. Did you see that one?
Oh no, I didn't.
The French City Hunter movie, and it's all these French people playing it up.
Wait,
and
on
stuff
that
like
note-
that in the French localized names.
Well,
or
and
even
everything.
Lupin the
Yeah, I was about to
Third.
say Lupin. What's the latest on that?
Oh, those new Lupin shows are great.
Oh yeah, you're talking about like the Fujiko one is crazy, and it ties back to the other two.
I still need to watch my copy
It
of
is.
that.
It is basically. Yeah, I saw the Goemon Bloodspray, and that's another one where it's like 15 minutes, but you enjoy all of those, and it's very James Bond-esque. It's very actiony. The animation, and everything, and all the action, everything is incredible.
Well, even
very real.
parts 4 and 5 are
No, they're normally been they're great, but then some of the other ones that it's kind of related to Fujiko and Mine. That's what those
Yeah.
OVAs
Oh,
are.
yeah,
and
but-
they're a very more serious take. So
But I would even say with parts 4 and 5 that it is like the old Lupin, but they gave it a fresh new coat of paint. And they've modernized in the way that there are cell phones now. Social media plays into some of
I
those.
feel like they overplayed that a bit in the fifth one, but maybe that
yeah,
was just
I don't
me.
blame you.
It's like it didn't have to be as in your face. I felt like it really came in your face at the very beginning,
That's for sure.
and they didn't have to be.
Yeah.
I guess we're nearing the 2-hour mark. Do you have James? Give me one show that you're like. I'm gonna come across like this is. We're in November. We're near the end of 2019. My subscription to Crunchyroll is about to expire. My subscription to Viki will expire, which has hardly been used. Crunchyroll even has barely been used. Viki has been less so.
But there hasn't been much, I would say, that I could give you. The one I would tell you about, unfortunately, is Amazon, so I have to find other ways to watch it, and that's the one I told you a few episodes ago was Vinland Saga.
Yes, you did.
And that one, it's just great watching that one. It's sad that, okay, it's going to end soon, and then it's like they probably aren't going to get to those other parts of the manga you've already read.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still continuing on, but it's just a fantastic story from the character standpoint, from the animation, because Wit Studio is doing it, and it's just been a fun ride going through that one. And then there wasn't really much, I'd say too much, but the one that I feel like I'm watching it just because I want to see how they're doing this adaptation. It's kind of messed up how they're doing it in my head. It's Kabukicho Sherlock, but the official localized name is Case File Number 221 Kabukicho and stuff like that. And it's just been bizarre. It's supposedly so it's on Funimation.
Why did they name it that?
I'm not sure it's because of Sherlock and that, but that's been so many years since Cumberbatch and them did that version. But it's so funny, like you're watching this and it's like they're in Japan. They have this weird Cold War thing with Kabukicho, like, or whatever it is in there, where half of it is split and it's like East Germany, West Germany type thing. And so Sherlock and them are in like the East Germany side and stuff like they in the poor side, and the other side is like richer and stuff like that, and they have all the stuff. But the funnier thing is he's like in this tenement, but he's living with all these other detectives, and then Mrs. Hudson is not Mrs. Hudson. She's not even a she. She is just this
Why
dude.
you gotta ruin it, James?
Hey, you pretty much have it. It's like she's a dude that is just getting them all in a game with all these detectives, and they have to solve the different cases so far. But if you want to know,
She has a,
So you're telling me she's a trap?
she's something. I don't know. She's
that sounds
Sarah
like-
or something like that. Maybe that you could say that.
oh,
Almost.
well, basically what we thought Mrs. Hudson could have been at some point.
And then there were like, there's so many things. Like it's, remember in Sherlock how it's like Sherlock they modernize and it's like he's using his mind and stuff like that. And
How
what's
you
his
kinda
mind?
see it, how it
what did they call it?
visualizes
Mind
itself?
prison? Yeah, visual. Well, this one he kind of has that thing. It's like that one man show they have in Japan and stuff like that, and that's what he does to then say this is how the case happened and stuff like that. And he's doing
Almost
that
Kendachi
shit.
like.
Yeah. And then the other funny thing is like you have this mix of characters. So you have the characters like Sherlock Holmes and John and stuff like that. And all of them are in there. And even Moriarty is in there. But then they have the Japanese characters. So it's like this weird mix and they're in this pseudo Japan. So it's very bizarre. And then the other thing is just Moriarty is just how they reveal his character, because they just have for the first episode this young high school kid genius, and then you find out he's James Moriarty and you're just like, are you effing kidding me? It's like, and so
They just love
You mean
doing
it's not Conan Edogawa?
I know.
this is so-
And then the funnier thing is on that note, it's like he's all buddy and everything with it. But then I guess in the end of the third episode, you see him crush a butterfly. So I'm guessing you never know. Maybe he's going to be Sherlock's love interest, or I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a little tension in the neighborhood. I don't know. But the funnier thing is, on that note, is the first case, I'm guessing it's related to what they say their big bad is, which is Jack the Ripper, which feels like they just put it in there. You know what I mean? But it'll be interesting because it's a 2-course series. It's Production IG is doing it. And I don't know. I'm
Is it
just
the
watching
A
it just
team?
to see.
Is it the A team or the B team?
I have no idea, to tell you the truth.
Oh boy.
But it is Production IG. They said that to it. But it's interesting because we've seen many different adaptations, and Japan has done other things like Genkutsu and Romeo and Juliet and
Yes, they
other
have.
ones. But this one just it feels kind of wacky and stuff like that. And
Well, it sounds wacky.
and I
just
guess
off
it's
bat.
the other thing, because a lot of us have watched other variations like the Robert Downey Jr. movies. Then we have
Sherlock
Cumberbatch
and-
and Sherlock, and that
then
one
of
was,
course, we
I
have
feel like a
Elementary.
high point, and especially when you remember those, it's like it doesn't have that oomph.
And then you have Elementary, of course, right?
Yeah, no, oh yeah, I keep on forgetting that with Lucy Liu and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with Lucy Liu and Angelina Jolie's other ex. Another one of Angelina Jolie's exes.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, one recommendation. Do you want to have one more, or do you want me to make one? I'll make one before we end.
Go ahead, make your
Okay.
recommendation.
Well, my recommendation is, last year I hinted at, I'm going to put my NHK hat back on, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to mention this one more time. I've helped out NHK over the last couple of years as a program monitor, basically be a reviewer for their shows. When I do a show, when I mention NHK, I watch it, and there's shows that do fascinate me on that streaming service. It's a network, but they put most of it on streaming. I've mentioned it a number of times. Obviously, I mentioned it in the last recording I did for the Comic Den era, and I've watched them ever since. Last year, I mentioned the Songs of Tokyo special, which was like basically an international version of the Japanese Red and White, for lack of a better explanation. But it was just a music show that they did in the NHK theater. Since then it's become a regular series that premiered in the spring. They do that maybe once or twice a month. Yoshiki from Exa Japan was actually featured on it. was actually the first guest of the regular series. We mentioned Hiroyuki Sawano back earlier in the in this episode. He appeared in the one of the specials, the special from last year. And they did the Songs of Tokyo festival this year as well. And this was meant to as a lead up to showcase Japanese music in the lead up to the Olympics next year. But they decided to make it a regular series, and they did the festival again this year. It's being presented in 4 parts. It's continuously up now on the NHK World website. We'll put a link to the show's page, along with all the other links from episode 14.
I'll believe it when I see it, Mike.
Right.
I guess he's going to put up the important ones.
I'll put up the ones. I'll put up the ones. We'll put up the important ones. Oh yeah, yeah. So including a voice actress's Twitter account on the photos that were taken. Part 3 of this festival focused, maybe not so surprisingly, focused on Annie songs. I told you they did Sawano last year, and you thought they could have done more on the anime angle. Well, they did. They devoted an entire quarter of the shows. They did one episode to Annie songs. So they had 4 different artists perform songs. But the most noteworthy is Yoko Takahashi.
Okay.
She performed her 2 signature songs from Eva, Cruel Angel's Thesis and Tamashin Noru Furan. The DJ, the announcer, who's Chris Pepler, who's the host of Tokyo Eye, but he's also a well-known DJ English language DJ in Japan, I believe. He mentioned a line that you just made me think about in saying, all the updates to City Hunter. Takahashi's appearing on this show to play her most iconic songs from Eva because Eva appears now on Netflix, in hopes of making new fans in a new generation. In hopes of introducing herself to a new generation of fans.
This was last year, or is
this year?
Oh,
and I'll show actually after the taping, I'll show you the performance. Because it's online. It's online now. It's streaming, and you guys out there, check it out. As I said, we'll put up the links to the show itself. But that's my personal recommendation.
You know what's going to happen?
What?
Because she'll probably perform a few songs, right?
She performed 2 songs. Why?
Only 2 songs?
Yeah, she performed 2 songs.
It's just going to be the Eva songs, okay?
It'll just be the 2 Eva songs. But the thing about this performance is, since the focus of part 3 was on Annie songs, everybody who performed in front of a screen that showed off, the anime in question.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice touch because sometimes that's something you want to know.
See, I'd be that one weirdo who would watch that program and go, oh man, I hope she's going to sing the opening theme song to Pumpkin Scissors, but it's just going to be Evangelion.
It's going to happen one day.
But it just had to be Eva, right?
Because I still haven't watched more than 5 episodes of the main Evangelion TV series, I knew her for her other songs, so like for Pumpkin Scissors and Shakugan no Shana. So, and I feel like, this has been a recurring thing that's happened with me whenever I've seen performers live, where they just don't perform my favorite songs. And sometimes these favorite songs are popular songs.
I said that.
Like when I went to go see Red Velvet earlier this year, one of my favorite songs from them is called Dum Dum, and it's one of their more popular songs, although it's a little older. And they performed a lot of those older songs, but not that one. Or when I went to go see Maximum the Hormone years ago in New York City, they're the ones who sung the Death Note openings, the second ones. One of my favorite songs from one of their last big albums was a song called Yoshu Fukushu, and they didn't play that one either.
Well, it's kind of like, I know where you're going, because when Junko Iwao appeared at Anime North last year, I was hoping she'd perform, and she did her 2 little concerts. I was hoping she'd perform the theme song to Ayashi no Serese.
Oh, geez, series? Oh, God, that show.
But I loved the theme song. She obviously didn't, if I'm bringing it up. It's not her most well-known.
Who created series again?
I forgot off the top of my head.
Oh, it's one of those popular shoujo artists that is blanking on me.
Well, yeah, like kind of like me and trying to remember things these days.
Wasn't it the same person that did Fushigi Yugi?
No, I don't believe so.
I need to look this up.
Iwatase?
Yeah, I
Iwatase?
think
No, I don't
it's
think-
Iwatase.
I don't think it was.
I don't
think
believe
it's
so.
Iwatase,
I
but it
don't
could be.
believe so.
Oh, let's see here.
But it was funny. You were thinking,
Yeah,
Mike, about...
yeah. One of us is eating a cookie. If whoever's wrong, right? Okay.
But it was
Wait,
funny,
here it
Mike.
comes.
Oh, it's Iwatase.
Oh, it is Iwatase. Wow, who'd have thunk it?
There was always something a little skeevy about
Wait, hold on,
series
hold on.
manga
It's-
from
it's-
what
it's-
I've heard from
Wait, hold on.
friends that read
Wait, seriously? Are we serious here? You're serious?
cut out.
Huh?
Did it cut out?
No. I mean, are you serious? Actually, no. Like,
That it's Iwatase.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It supposedly is. He's very serious.
I'm just trying to find the reference here.
See, I trash series, but then the only Iwatase manga I've read is Absolute Boyfriend, which is even more trash.
It's like maybe we should give them a better recommendation.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
Give me a sec here.
But there was a funny one. You guys were talking about walkable season. If you want another
Okay, here.
degree to connect.
Which cookie
It's
should I
like-
have? I said one of us was eating a cookie. If whoever was wrong.
Macadamia.
Okay, thank you.
Oh man, you're going back in it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about it.
Oh.
I have nothing else to say. Okay, one last thing. The final, I guess, once again with my NHK hat on, the final ceremonies concerning the enthronement of the new emperor will have happened. There's some video on that from in terms of their news programming, and there's a final parade, I think, for the people, which will take place on Sunday.
Okay.
It's supposed to have taken place actually around the same time as the rest of the ceremonies, but like in October. But because of the typhoon that hit, they delayed the parade, and the parade will happen this weekend.
Yeah, they had some delayed stuff, and people
Oh, yeah,
were helping out.
well-
Remember, the Canadian rugby team
Yes, the
was
rugby
helping
team.
out on that because of all
topic
the
of-
mud in that. Because remember, Rugby World Cup.
With the World Cup reaching its culmination as well.
And Japan somehow, I was like, they hadn't had the best time. And I'm like, how in the world did they get this good?
Well, yeah, people are wondering, but the irony is it was a full circle moment for the Japanese rugby team, the Brave Blossoms, as they're called. They started this great run, beating South Africa 4 years ago, and the run ended with them losing to South Africa in the quarterfinals here. But they more than held their own, I believe.
Yeah, no, of course. And they got a lot farther than I'm sure some people thought, right? It's
Certainly
like,
better
oh,
than
man.
Canada.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like I think the Japanese rugby team are now in the top 10 at the very least. Canada's ranked number 22, right? Which is a big fall for it. Like they've fallen pretty steeply because they were battling in the top 10 years about a decade ago. So that tells you how things have gone now.
Well, it's the All Blacks and then everyone else.
Well, yeah, but they didn't win it. Actually,
one of those things.
I think the Japanese can take heart in the fact that he got knocked off by the eventual champions.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is something to think about.
Yeah. Anyway, that's about it. I know there's other stuff. I hope. Oh, you want something to add before we go?
Yeah, I know.
Say it now.
Sorry to drag it out, but
No, that's okay. Because who knows when we're taping again? Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so just quickly on the movie front, the Konosuba movie is screening on November 18th, but anyone that watched that silly but fun isekai show, now's your chance to watch on the big screen. A lot of the screenings are sold out because it was a pretty popular show, but if there's still tickets near you, you can go see it. That is courtesy of Crunchyroll, apparently.
Well, it's weird because thinking about those, they did the Ancient Bride Magus and stuff like that.
Yes, Ancient Magus Bride, yes.
Magus Bride. But the one they didn't bring over and do was Tanya the Evil. But Tanya the Evil is on Crunchyroll proper now. And that was actually a funny one. That's one I watched. And that one's a fun movie to watch, especially if you enjoyed the series and stuff like that.
Yeah, I missed Tanya the Evil. I never got around to that one.
Well, it's interesting. Like, it's a fun series and how they had to adapt it, but then you read the novels and it's it's the same thing, but they definitely could not have adapted it the way they did because basically it's an isekai, they're reincarnated, but basically evil. Well, I don't want to say evil, but a jerk of an HR manager that dies and gets reincarnated as a little girl because he disses the god, and the god's like, "You guys don't believe me." He's like, "I don't care." He says, "Well, maybe if you did, whatever." So he makes him a little girl in World War I type Germany and stuff like that, and basically he has to go and survive through all that, but he still thinks of himself as his former life.
Former wife.
Yeah, I know. I had a very big slip there. You can tell it's been a late night. But former
We're
life.
almost done anyway. Don't worry.
No, former life, basically. And he thinks himself as male and not as his current self, as the female and stuff like that. And he keeps on talking internally in the novel, and in the anime, obviously, that would not work. So it's more interesting in that sense that he's like more well, it isn't that he's accepting, it's just they had to cut that internal monologue out and make it say, okay, I've kind of accepted this, and refer to him as her and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. You have one more thought, and then we're gonna get going.
Two thoughts. So a friend just linked me this. So IFF Toronto for next year.
Have they announced their first guests?
They announced voice actor Shotaro Morikubo.
And we should know that because
He's Yosuke from P4. Oh, and he was Shikamaru from Naruto.
okay. So should Mike keep his tickets
Yes.
or sell them? What's the over under?
Oh, he's also Reiji Kotobuki from Utano Prince Sama. So, oh yeah, there'll be some.
They
There'll
definitely
be fans.
bring
There'll be fans.
like that's one thing. They definitely bring the guests. You
I mean,
can't
we
say that about
remember
them,
what we
yeah.
talked about last episode about IFF. I wonder if what's his face is coming. Okay.
Okay, so this is a bit of a rant. This isn't the last thing. So, last month,
I've had rants. Don't worry.
Comixology decided to bring out with Kodansha. They decided to bring out the Drops of God.
Oh, I remember this one, and because they had some sort of wine thing happening event in California and stuff like that, and then they announced this, and yeah, it's all digital only, and that's because Mary was the greatest hits we got from Vertical.
We got the first 8 volumes, and then the 5th volume was part of an arc in California, because they felt like at the time, oh, we need to bring more readers in, so let's
Napa
adapt
Valley,
some of the
yeah.
arc where they're in Napa Valley. And man, The Drops of God was one of my favorite manga at the time, and it still is. And it broke my heart to see that series not continue, but I remember Ed Chavez, well, formerly of Vertical, but now with Faku.
And Dumpa.
Yes. Because Jacob brought him in, yes. He had mentioned early on that the Drops of God needs to sell X amount of copies to continue with each new volume.
And given how long it was, which is a very long thing, it basically, once they started doing Kodansha Digital and stuff like that, all those long ones like Space Brothers, this one,
Initial D
Domestic
finally
Girlfriend,
finished.
Initial D, all of them, basically digital is the only home they can really have, because even Omnibus can't save them.
And that's how Kodansha has been able to revive their canceled series from the mid-2000s. So Nodame Cantabile finally finished. School Rumble finally
Sakura,
finished.
I think, was the
Sakura finally finished. Oh, I have a love-hate relationship with that series. Pretty much all of... I think even Beck finished, too, if I'm not mistaken. And then they also published Night in the Area, also by the same creator under a different name. Here's a degree of Kevin Bacon, I guess. So what breaks my heart is that it's $10.99 a book. This series is 44 volumes long for the first part. The final arc is still being created in Japan.
$10 a book. Do the math.
$11 a book. Yes,
$11.
do the math. Now, Comixology does have an unlimited service exclusive to the United States at this moment for $5.99. Now, it's not really feasible for me to like. I love the Drops of God, but now it's really come to a matter of, do I really love this enough to buy what's going to be like probably 60 to 70 digital volumes of a series?
And the problem is, even if it's on sale, it's still going to be expensive. It doesn't matter which one
And it's not just that. I mean, you can end up talking about digital DMR, digital rights management, DRM.
You're not really buying,
And you're not really buying. It can be pulled out from you at any second.
And that's the thing with me. I honestly haven't looked into how Comixology works in that regard, but I really don't like owning digital content in that sense.
Well, it's a problem. Owning digital content are problematic.
When I want to own something, I want to own it physically.
You want to feel it and see it.
Yes, and especially with books.
That's why they call it the iPod Touch. Okay,
And when it comes to manga, I prefer subscription services. So what I'm hoping is that they'll eventually bring it to Canada. I feel like it'll happen at some point. And that's how I will support this series.
cool.
I'll have to finally give Amazon some of my money.
You mean you'll give Jeff Bezos your money?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I do that already with Kindles, with my
And
Kindle stuff.
I've already planned it out with a couple of friends who are also big fans of the series, where we're going to probably share a Comixology or Amazon Prime membership, but not do
I
it
do
yearly.
that with Netflix all the time.
You're saying
Don't do it
you're
yearly.
going to let us have your codes?
Yeah, if you want to read it, sure. I don't mind. Whatever. I trust you to not steal all my information, but
You trust our viewers.
Mind you, I just remind you, Neil has my Netflix.
pray
Oh, no.
pray that they at least finish the first Drops of God series, and then do a monthly subscription, because you can do month by month now for $8,
Cool.
and just be like, all right, guys, gotta power through this.
Yeah.
Stop.
I think
Come back to it later
I think
on.
2 or 3 months is fair
Yeah.
to read 44 volumes, and then I'll consider that worth it.
Cool.
I'll do a volume a night.
Yeah, I won't lie though. Like when it comes to digital content, $2.79 for Shonen Jump in Canada, hard to beat.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
No, they definitely have been very
At least they're
aggressive
trying.
on all those.
Yeah,
ones.
they're trying.
yeah.
Okay, I guess that's
Just give me Strawberry 100%, which will never
Well,
happen.
that was
boy.
the crazy thing. We're
boy.
so close, but we haven't seen anything
And
digital
so-
on that, right? That's
See,
crazy.
so I know. Oh god, this show never ends. But so you know how Kodansha is actually releasing all of their canceled stuff digitally. Viz is refusing to do that because I just want my last 5 volumes of Strawberry 100%.
They were so close.
but so far.
And it's crazy because that was one of the Shonen Jump ones, and it was in their Advanced Jump, and it's just like, oh man.
See, so if you've noticed, I don't know if you ever went through their app, but none of their stuff that got canceled is in their lineup. So Strawberry 100% is not in the Shonen Jump app.
And it's crazy because they're owned by it's
Because what's the point if you can't finish it?
Yeah.
It's true. So no Gintama, no Reborn. They don't have the rights to Shaman King anymore, so it's not on the app either.
Oh, nothing like rights.
Beat the Venom Buster, which is finally continuing in Japan.
Digital rights rant right there. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, sirree. Lots to say.
Okay.
We're done?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm out of things to talk about.
cool.
We have one
Well, let's
more
just say this much.
recommendation
Well,
that I said about.
Well, the problem is, you're right. We're over time. Let me just set the map for the rest of 2019. I suppose.
Okay.
Okay.
My hope is that we are able to do at least one more regular episode, probably in December.
Okay.
'Cause
Before
we didn't-
Christmas.
Before Christmas, yes, because we didn't get a chance to do anything in October. Obviously, anything. And I hope at least one on my mind comes out, whether it's me or either of you two.
And you're hopeful Mo will join us one day.
You know that too, yes. But those are what's on the on tap. I think. I know you have a story to share, Kevin.
Yeah.
But do you want to hint that now, or do you want or not? Because I told you I'm not.
Well, we were supposed to, but I'd wanted to talk about my KCON experience, but I'm thinking that it might be ideal to actually do that as a
Just a monologue.
on my mind thing. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I guess I'll hint. I'm going to hint, I suppose, at two other stories. Well, one is kind of a Netflix thing, but it'll be a good. Well, let's face it. I think they both are. No, wait, and another is on a manga that's been long out of print. It was a one shot, but it's also related to something. It's related to the A bomb. It's related to the atomic bomb, and I'll talk to you about it. Well, hopefully I can get either of those two stories out there. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully it'll be more than just the three of us next time.
Yeah, we'll see if we get better luck.
This was fine.
Mm-hmm.
This worked.
Yeah. Anyway, let's call it because we're over 2 hours, and the clock here says 20 minutes to midnight.
Oh, jeez.
So
Wow. Time flies.
yes,
we're gonna have to
so
cut. Right?
Well, so the everything's about to turn back to pumpkins shortly. So we'll call it a night.
pumpkin scissors.
Oh yeah. Anyway, that's it. So
That show wasn't that good though, from what I heard. It was
pumpkin
alright.
scissors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did they ever put that on the digital for Kodansha since that was one of theirs? Because that was a cancel one, remember?
Anyway,
Kodansha
maybe
did publish that.
let's discuss that another time. Have a good night, folks.
Which is never.
Well, yeah, probably never. Have a good night from Toronto, and join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable.